Good morning, and welcome to a Throwback Thursday on Ben and Woods. Although if it was a real Throwback Thursday, shouldn't we be throwing back to one of the days that I'm on vacation? One of my many vacations of the past? I wouldn't mind that, but...
is this you trying to get out of every Thursday show from
I
here
like
on
that
out?
idea. I like that. Throwback Thursday's theme is Ben is on vacation this year, and he's just taking Thursdays off. No, it's not me who's taking Thursdays off. It is Woodsy who is off this morning after he went to a concert up in Los Angeles last night. I have had no contact with him. When was the last time? Paulie is our executive producer. Introduced the man to my left. You're right on the YouTube screen this morning if you're following us that way. Good morning, Paulie.
Good morning, Benjamin.
When was the last time you got a text from Woods? Sometimes we are on a group thread with the three of us. We're on actually a number of different group threads. There's the main one is just the three of us, the core three.
That
Paul,
one gets the most
Ben,
action.
Woods. That one gets the most action. We've got like another one that has Adam included, but we often talk behind his back and don't include him on a lot of things.
Like he'll text us something on that thread, Adam will, and then we'll go to the other thread with just the three of us.
And then there's the rare instances where there's direct text between me and Woods or direct text between me and Paulie, when we don't want the other one to know what we're texting about, which is pretty unusual. I mean, at least I think it is. How often do you and Woods text directly? I know you and I maybe, I don't know, once every week or two, maybe throw a text out that is not concerning Woods and he doesn't need to know about it. Woods and I will occasionally text about like maybe something golf related that we're setting up that you're not doing, and I will text him and not you. But how often do you and Woods communicate without me knowing behind my back?
Never. Actually,
never,
never.
I'm always included. Anything that you guys think of that pops into your head.
Yeah, you're always on the same page.
So you have not heard from him since.
He texted me at 3:27 p.m. yesterday, bitching about some work stuff.
Yep, let's see that. I think that's the last one we got. So,
and that was it. He's on vacation. He went to a concert last night. Had a great time, it looks like, so I didn't want to bother him.
So did he at least post on social media? I didn't check out his Instagram feed. He made it to the concert. He is presumably alive at this point.
Yes.
I always worry a little bit with Woods. He's got that when he goes hard. He goes really hard, and I sometimes wonder. I just hope he made it, back to his hotel or wherever he's staying safely and is hopefully asleep right now this morning.
Right. I haven't talked to him, I didn't talk to him last night. I haven't talked to him this morning, so I don't know how it all went.
Well, Alex said he got a picture with Chino from the Deftones.
Yeah.
That's the concert he went to.
Yep, got it right here on
Crosses,
the screen.
Chino's side project.
It's a side project, so Woods is a massive, massive Deftones fan, and now he is a massive Crosses fan because the lead singer, it's his side project, whatever, second band. I don't exactly know how he would describe it, but yeah. So Woods was telling me he paid a little extra for, I don't think it was necessarily VIP, but it was early entrance.
I mean, I see he's wearing a lanyard that has crosses on it, so he has some sort of like a official badge on at this concert.
He said he got early entry, which he goes, we got to be there at 6 p.m. And I go, oh, nice. When's the show? When do they hit the stage? He goes, not until 9:30. I go, oh, God. So I don't know what he did for 3.5 hours, but he did get a picture with Chino, so I would assume he would tell us that it's worth it when he joins us tomorrow. He'll be back tomorrow, though. coming back from LA.
He is radio's Forrest Gump. He wanders through life, running into celebrities all the time. Somehow.
Let's talk about him checking into his hotel. The picture that he sent to you, me, and Adam.
Oh my goodness gracious! Why didn't we think of this to begin with? This should have been number one on our list of things to discuss.
I started thinking about it. Woods has told the story many times when he and Hannah were in Europe, and I think they were in Paris, and staying at their hotel was one of the actors from The Office. I forget the name. Yeah,
he played the big boss from the company.
Somebody will have it in the chat.
We'll jump it.
And I go, that was cool.
Not a huge star. It's not like it was,
somebody
one
notable
of the main
staying at his
characters.
hotel. Then, just over the holiday break, they're at Lake Arrowhead, and Shia LaBeouf was staying at his hotel, at his resort. And I go, man, I've not knowingly ever stayed at a hotel with a celebrity like that. And then he's checking into his hotel yesterday, and he sneaks a picture of somebody checking in, and he sends it to you, me, and Adam, and he goes, "Who is this?"
He goes, "This is an old basketball player that I can't place." And I love this. This is
David Wallace was the name. Thank you,
David Wallace. Yeah. So he sends us this picture of a guy leaning over on the checkout counter at the hotel where he is staying. And then he goes in tight on his hands, and there's a picture of what is obviously appears to be some sort of championship ring. So he knows this guy. He can place him. I mean, was he he must have been some sort of old basketball star. Obviously, he's a guy who looks like he's in his, maybe 60s, around 70 years old, someone who played probably in the, the 80s or 70s.
And if somebody's, 6'7", 6'8",
sure.
6'9", you're going to guess basketball is the first sport.
Yeah, and he's got just that look, like familiar. Like it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Yep.
I can almost place it. He's got that silver hair. I've seen him somewhere. He's probably been at like an all-star game or something. They've introduced him. I probably should know who this guy is. And, I got into this text thread just a minute late. Polly goes, "Dude, that's Michael Jordan." You knew who it was right away, right?
I did.
Yes.
I did.
Adam knew who it was right away.
Adam definitely knew who it was.
And then I jumped in, and I knew who it was right away as well.
I just wanted to mess with him.
Yes. And then Adam let him know. The basketball player in question that Woods could not place was none other than Dr. J. Julius Irving, who was checking into Woods' hotel yesterday, right before Woodsy, apparently. He was right behind Dr. J in line.
It was awesome. So cool.
Now, Basketball Ben would have been pretty excited to be checking into Dr. J's hotel yesterday. Woods was more of the, I know he's a basketball player. I've probably seen him before. Yeah, maybe one of the 10 greatest basketball players of all time is actually who that is.
Icon in the game. Now, if that were you, do you say anything?
I don't know. Now, I would probably do it with a baseball player. Woods would be like instantly know any baseball player from the last 40 years, and I'd go, "Who is that guy?" Like when we were at spring training, and I'm not even noticing. We're at the Padres game. They're about to play the Royals. We're just walking, and George Brett walks by, and I don't really even notice. But Woodsy instantly goes, "There's George Brett. We got to get a picture with George Brett." And it's like he would have walked right by me. And
Padres are playing the Royals. Like, it makes sense.
I knew who it was, but I wasn't really looking out for him, and I wasn't so instantly attuned like Woods is.
He had his hat down. He was big jacket on.
He was talking to another one of the coaches or something. He was walking in. I would have walked right by, never noticing. But Woodsy instantly just knows there is George Brett, Hall of Famer, right there. We got to get a picture. And I go, that is definitely George Brett. But I think I would like to think that if I was checking in behind Dr. J at my hotel, I would have recognized him at the.
God, that's funny.
At wherever in Los Angeles he was.
He has a knack for running into people like that.
He really
on
does.
His vacations.
And I always wonder, am I running into these people as well, and I'm just not noticing? Right. And he's just good at that. He's observant about people and the kind of people that he runs into, or is he truly just remarkably lucky when it comes to celebrity meeting, like the Shia LaBeouf, like David Wallace, and some of his other stories that he's told over the years?
I mean, I can't chalk it up to anything other than luck, right?
I think so.
I mean, he doesn't work for TMZ. He's not like camping out at the LAX or
he's a
anything.
homebody for the most part, as he tells us.
He's not standing outside of clubs in Beverly Hills on a Friday night.
Like 99% of the time, he just goes, he likes to go home, do nothing at home, and then he goes to work, he picks up his kids, goes to T-ball. How does he run into so many celebrities all the time, given his lifestyle?
It's impressive. It really is.
It's amazing. You told me earlier that you spent an hour setting up a smart light bulb yesterday.
Yeah.
Do
you guys have any smart bulbs or smart
appliances? I am really torn about how smart I want to make my life. Paula, you're a little bit younger. I feel like you've set up your house with more of the Google features, announced to your phone you want to turn the lights on and stuff at your house.
We have everything's connected to Amazon Alexa.
We have the smart garage door now that I can use like an app if I want to open it, which has been convenient. If someone comes, there's a delivery and I'm not home, I can just open the garage and have them set it inside, and then I can close it when they're gone. And I found that there is some convenience to that, but I also get weary of all the different ways you can just monitor your life and I don't want to set everything up. I don't have smart light bulbs. I don't have a smart thermostat. If I want to change the temperature at my house, I go and I just push on the wall like down 2 degrees in my house. And I don't go to an app. I don't go to different rooms.
But you could.
I could, but I'm still kind of old school on some of it.
Sure.
So I'm kind of on the fence. You're pretty all in on the smart features, though.
Yeah, we have like a lot of light bulbs and appliances set up through smart plugs, which is just an Amazon plug that you put into the outlet, and then you plug whatever you want to be smart into that outlet. And so, I can say, hey, Alexa, turn off the TV if I'm laying in bed and getting ready to fall asleep. I have our ceiling lights in our bedroom. Hey, Alexa, turn on the lights. Hey, Alexa, turn off the ceiling lights. And we have a desk lamp that also had a smart bulb in it, and it's got like the RGB feature, so you can make it any color. You can dim it from 0 to 100%. You can set them up on schedules to start to turn on at a certain time in the morning or turn off at a certain point at night. All of that, you can set it up however you want. And I couldn't get this bulb, like it stopped working, and I was trying to figure out why. I even bought a new light bulb, a new smart bulb, to see if maybe it had run its course, which I didn't think was the case because it's only been a year. And it wouldn't connect. It connects through Wi-Fi. Everything runs on your Wi-Fi network. And the Wi-Fi is about 15 feet away, but through a wall in another room. And I could not get it to connect. And finally, I'm looking. Took me like 45 minutes, and it says, make sure the device is closer to the Wi-Fi router. So I had to unplug the lamp, carry it into the other room, put it right next to the Wi-Fi router, and then it worked, and then it connected, and I moved it back into the bedroom.
How many Paul Reindls does it take to change a light bulb? I guess the answer to the question is...
it drives my wife insane because she sometimes... Alexa doesn't maybe hear her clearly, and I just hear her screaming, "Alexa, turn off the ceiling lights."
I guess I don't. I feel like in some ways you're just making your life more complicated. This is supposed to be a convenience to make your life easier, but with the amount of setup and you've got to remember the password and everything.
A lot of it
are we making our lives easier or harder with some of this smart technology?
I think in general we're making our lives easier. A lot of this stuff, it takes a little bit of attention to detail and patience when you're setting it all up, and then it's worth it once it's all done and plugged in and ready to go. But you're one Wi-Fi outage or one sketchy Wi-Fi day away from all of a sudden it being a nightmare. So I can see that. There's an argument.
Yeah, I'm always torn. Obviously, I'm a little bit older, and I don't hate technology. I'm not like railing against it. It has been good for our lives and most of the developments that we've seen. But at some point, not everything has to be smart and attached to Wi-Fi and programmable in life. Sometimes a light bulb is just a light bulb.
Yeah.
And we invented switches on the walls a long time ago.
I try not to think about it too much. I've had friends that I grew up with that work for Amazon, and I go, so be real with me for a second. The Alexa devices, for example, they hear everything, right? They are constantly recording our everyday life? And he goes, no, they wouldn't do that. And I'm like, well, they have to be recording for them to even hear you say, "Hey Alexa," before you give a command. It has to always be listening.
It's listening.
And I'm like, that's interesting. I don't even like to think about it too much because I'm like,
yeah, I try not to worry
we're
about
always
it.
being watched.
I'm not that interesting. I mean, if someone truly wanted to go back and listen to everything that was said, it's probably going to be pretty boring. Kind of like this, start of the show this morning without Woodsy here. But we made it through Foreplay. We'll get into the rest of the day and set the menu for what's coming up on the show today. A couple of guests today, which I like to do when Woodsy's not here, bring in some other voices, some baseball talk coming up later this morning. But we'll tell you who's on the show, what we're going to be talking about. I'd love to get some phone calls from Padres fans this morning about how you're feeling. We'll take the temperature. We're almost a month into spring training. We're less than 2 weeks away from the first game of the season. And I want to know how you're feeling out there about the San Diego Padres from what you've seen out in Peoria. So we'll discuss that as well. Getting started here on a Throwback Thursday. It is Ben. It is Paul. Woodsy off. He'll be back tomorrow on San Diego's #1 sports station. Let's see how the traffic looks. Still some rain out there. It's very misty as well at our studios. Check with Kelly here on 97.3 The Fan. Good point made from Tier 1 Kim Higgins, my mother, who wonders whether Bo has gotten to the Dr. J page yet in his Legends of Basketball coloring book that Woods has been talking about.
Obviously not.
The last couple of weeks. That could have helped him identify Dr. J yesterday at his hotel in Los Angeles. Welcome back. It is Paulie. It has been on a Thursday morning. We will set the menu here in a second. I did watch one of the craziest soccer games I've ever seen. It happened last night, just about a mile away from here at Snapdragon Stadium, the Women's Gold Cup semifinal between the United States and Canada. And I don't know if any of the Tier 1s went last night. It was pouring rain, especially right before the game and early in the game. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty insane that they actually even let this game get started last night, because once the players took the pitch, you could tell that the field was a swamp. It was standing water all over the place, and they kicked the ball, and it would just splash and stop. It wouldn't roll like a soccer ball is supposed to roll. This was only semi-recognizable as the sport of soccer. Imagine a baseball game played on a completely water-soaked field where like a single to center field just stops dead in its tracks, like
barely makes it past the mound.
Yeah, like 30 yards in front of the center fielder, and he's got to go chase after it. This is what the soccer players were essentially doing. They kicked the ball where they thought it was going to bounce to them, and then they realized, oh, no, that's going to stop 40 yards in front of me because there's no roll at all because the field is so wet. And it really changed the whole nature of the competition. The U.S. scored their first goal on a play that never would have been a goal in any other soccer game. It was just a normal back pass from Canada to the keeper. No one was there, but the ball stopped dead in its tracks, and Jaden Shaw, who plays for the Wave, just ran up and kicked it into the goal because it wasn't rolling to the goalie the way it was supposed to on a normal field. And then it got even crazier. Canada tied it with like 7 minutes to go. It went to overtime. The U.S. scored in overtime, but then with like 1 second left, it seemed like, because they had already gone the full 120 minutes and then one more minute of stoppage time, and it was like 120-55 on the clock. Canada gets into the box on a header, collides with the U.S. goalkeeper, Alyssa Nair, and they end up reviewing it for like 6 minutes and calling a penalty on the U.S. keeper and giving a penalty shot to Canada. They make it, and now it's tied 2-2, and the game is over, so they go to penalty kicks, and in penalty kicks, the keeper redeems herself with 3 saves, and the U.S. ends up winning 3-2 and advancing to the Gold Cup final on Sunday at Snapdragon Stadium. But it was absolutely nuts. I mean, you had to be a diehard soccer fan, though, because that looked like it was miserable out there.
It's typically a sport that does play in the elements, but I can see it not working out too well if you can't kick the ball. If the ball does not play like it should, that makes it really, really tough to play a soccer game.
On social media, there were people like in soccer who were saying this needs to be stopped. Some former players are going, why are they playing in this situation? No chance these are safe playing conditions. Casey Stoney's the coach of the Wave. 4 of her players are on this field, and she is going out, this is so dangerous. Make the right call for player safety. She's obviously worried right at the start of the season that one of her players is going to get injured playing on this super sloppy, wet field last night. So the U.S. did end up winning. They're going to play Brazil in the final on Sunday afternoon at Snapdragon Stadium. But there was a good crowd and probably some Tier 1s out there last night for one. Also a really long game. It was almost 3 hours long by the time they finished with the reviews and the penalty kicks, and everything didn't end until after 10 o'clock last night at Snapdragon Stadium. So that was pretty crazy. So on the show today, if Dr. J doesn't call in, maybe when Woods goes down for breakfast at the hotel, he can just hand him a phone, and we can have Dr. J on at some point. That would be fun. We're going to talk some baseball coming up at 7:35 this morning.
Mr. Dr. J, can you just talk to my friends here?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we've got a radio show in San Diego. My co-host is a huge basketball fan. He's going to get an absolute thrill.
Awesome.
Put you on the show today. So who knows? Maybe Dr. J will call in at some point. We do have Dr. David Schoenfield from ESPN who's going to be with us at 7:35. Want to kind of examine the remaining free agents in Major League Baseball. Obviously, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. I don't know that we have a ton of optimism that the Padres are going to be in on either of those guys, but there's still guys out there. Tommy Pham, isn't JD Martinez still unsigned? Yep. A few other players that are available. What are the pros and cons? of some of these guys that are left. Are they worth it? Going out on the market.
Holdup?
What's the holdup? What are we waiting for on some of these last deals? So, talk to David Schoenfield about this in this extremely late free agent market. We're now on March 7th, and the reigning Cy Young Award winner remains without a team at this point, which is pretty crazy that Blake Snell is still unsigned.
Brutal.
With less than 2 weeks to go before the Padres' first game and less than 3 weeks to go now until everybody else starts 3 weeks from today. And Blake Snell, there's almost no way he could be ready for the start of a season. Even if he's throwing on the side right now, You sign Blake Snell, you're figuring he's probably going to need an extra 2 weeks before we can even get him in for a start at this point.
Yep.
So it's already impacting the start of the season, the lateness of free agency. We'll have our regular features. Thursday means a real or fake game, chance to qualify for a trip to Las Vegas coming up at 7:10 this morning. Don't do this, all of our normal features as well. The second half of the show, we'll check in with Sammy Levitt at spring training. I don't want to impose on Sammy too much. This is actually the only scheduled off day for the Padres this spring. Like Mike Schilt, the coaching staff, most of the players have the day off.
I think they had one other day where they didn't have a game, but they were still working out.
Yeah, and they don't have a game until tomorrow evening. So this is a chance to take a full day and a half away from spring training. Now, not everybody gets to enjoy the day off. In order to stay on their normal schedule, Joe Musgrove is going to pitch in a B game. Michael King is going to pitch in a B game against the Rangers. But for the most part, coaches, staff, players, media even has the day off today. It's the only really true off day for the Padres this spring.
That's why Sammy is the MVP.
Yeah, and he's still going to join us to talk about what went on yesterday at the Peoria Sports Complex. Padres took on the Reds. We'll talk about that coming up as well. But and then Tier 1 Tour in our last hour, it's the Houston Astros. We're moving out to the AL West. And because it's the Astros, Paulie had a great idea. Let's check in with Blummer, our friend Geoff Blum, Astros broadcaster, talk about the aftermath of losing to the Rangers in the ALCS last year, managerial change as Dusty Baker retires, and then they made some offseason moves and some signings that were interesting to try to get them back to the top of the heap and back to the World Series. So we'll talk to Geoff Blum as we continue our Tier 1 tour with the Houston Astros in the spotlight coming up later today.
Love it. Love it.
All right, when we come back, though, I want to get into the Padres. And I teased this in our promo yesterday, and this is where I want the Tier 1s to chime in. We are almost a month into spring training. It was about a month ago that players started arriving at the Peoria Sports Complex. I think the official report date was, February 11th, Super Bowl Sunday. Between then and now, are you more or less confident in this Padres team than when spring training started, based on what you've seen over these last 4 weeks? Are you feeling better about the Padres? Are you feeling worse? I've kind of broken it down by position, just kind of what I've seen and whether I feel like they're heading in the right direction this spring, or I'm more concerned than I was when we showed up in Peoria. So if you want to join us, 833-288-0973. That's the topic early on the show today. Your confidence level based on what you've seen so far at spring training from your San Diego Padres. And we'll get into that coming up next with Paul Reindl on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I'm already seeing a mix of optimism and pessimism in our YouTube chat about our topic this morning, whether you're more or less confident in the Padres based on what you've seen so far in spring training over these past 4 weeks. If you want to join us, you can call in 833-288-0973. Woodsy's off today. It's me and Paul going until 10 o'clock this morning. Yesterday was kind of one of the more pessimistic days, I would say, for the Padres, although there were some positives. One of the positives was not Randy Vasquez's outing against the Cincinnati Reds. He got lit up, 5 runs, 3 home runs, 8 hits in 3 2/3 innings.
So today is Thursday.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about a rough outing for Randy Vasquez. Yesterday we talked about a rough outing for Pedro Avila.
Correct.
And on Tuesday we were hyping up those guys pretty hard.
Yeah.
Like, man, there's a lot of optimism for the back end of this rotation. It's looking pretty good.
I mean, if now you're looking at the spring training results to determine the starting rotation, it's pretty clearly Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Michael King, Matt Waldron, and Johnny Brito.
Yeah.
Those have been the guys who have performed most consistently. Now, that could change with their next starts because Randy Vasquez had been looking pretty good until yesterday's outing against the Cincinnati Reds. Now, Mike Shildt said, I liked how the ball was coming out of his hand. He missed a couple of spots. He was punished for it, but he battled. He competed. Didn't sound like a manager who was panicking about one bad spring outing. And you can't really. It's a spring outing. You know, you never know what he's working on. Maybe there's a specific pitch he was targeting, and it just wasn't going for him yesterday. So you do have to take these results with a huge grain of salt. A lot of the guys in the bullpen pitched pretty well. Wandy Peralta, Usuk Go, Tom Cosgrove, Alec Jacob, all pitched a shutout inning. Luis Patino did it, give up a run. It was kind of a weird one. He walked Ellie De La Cruz, who then stole second, stole third, and came home on a ground out.
Guys,
not much you can do to stop that. I guess don't walk Ellie De La Cruz would be the moral of that story. But the bullpen looked decent yesterday. Jackson Merrill had another good game, threw out his first runner at home plate on a single to center field in the 4th inning. Nice one-hop throw. Did a nice job for a guy. Does not look like someone who has never played center field in his life until, last week? And now he's played there 5 or 6 times in a row and
looking good.
Has looked very comfortable out there. He had another opposite field gap double. The guy just, I heard him talking to Sammy after the game. He says, yeah, I've pretty much barreled up 1 or 2 balls every single game that I've been in, and I feel pretty good about where I am swing-wise. So, Jackson Merrill remains one of the absolute bright spots of spring training for the San Diego Padres.
It's definitely something I'm sure we will talk about over the next couple of weeks as they determine their roster. Are they rushing him, or is he forcing his way on to the roster? Or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, I mean, that'll be part of my confidence discussion coming up, is what I've seen from Jackson Merrill.
I mean, let's just say they still had a Trent Grisham, and then you had a Profar on this roster. Still, we still do have him. But, if you didn't need Jackson Merrill, would he still be?
I don't know.
Fighting his way onto this roster.
You know what I'm saying? He might be.
I mean, he's probably going to end up there just purely out of necessity.
Who's been more consistently impressive this spring than Jackson Merrill, at least position-wise for the San Diego Padres? So, Jake Cronenworth is looking decent. He had an RBI double yesterday. Now, I have some mixed feelings about positive results for Xander Bogaerts yesterday. Xander played shortstop because he's going to be the backup shortstop to Ha-Seong Kim when he's not starting at second base this season.
There's also an update to that story as well, according to Kevin Acee in the UT, said that Kim was dealing with back spasms. It wasn't just, we wanted to make sure, Xander will be the backup shortstop. That's why he's getting the start today. Nothing more, nothing less. Kim was dealing with some back spasms. Doesn't seem to be anything serious. I think the team thought, with the off day on Thursday and a night game on Friday.
Why play him yesterday?
Why give him that extra rest even more so?
But it's a preview of what, when Ha-Seong Kim does miss a game or two, as everyone does over the course of the season, expect Xander Bogaerts to slide over to shortstop, and he did. They batted him leadoff, and he looked good. He doubled to lead off the bottom of the 1st inning, came around to score, walked. He actually scored both runs out of the leadoff spot, which is, a potential place where Mike Shilt's going to put him in the lineup. We thought maybe it was going to be Tatis, and then Ha-Seong Kim had a chance against a lefty, and now Xander Bogaerts gets an opportunity. So got those options there in the leadoff spot. I just don't want Xander all of a sudden having a good game at shortstop and going, I just hit better when I'm shortstop.
see?
And
Yeah.
see what happens when I go over to shortstop. I'm looking better here. And, he needs to build up some confidence right now over at second base and don't want to have all of his good games come while he's playing at shortstop and get it in his head that that's the only position where he can have success on the diamond. All right, let's check traffic. And then I want to start going through our confidence level at positions based on what you've seen this spring for your San Diego Padres. If you want to join us, 833-288-0973. Coming up after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Most of the rain has moved on, guys, but you might still see a scattered shower or two and slick roadways to go along with that. So just take it extra carefully out there. Northbound 5 clearing an accident just past the King Freeway. It's over the right shoulder. And on the coastline, northbound 5 just past Las Pulgas, there is a collision over to the right shoulder. That vehicle is blacked out. Be extra careful as you pass it. Even move over lane if it's safe to do so. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I think I'll start with the good news here, Paulie. Overall, I'm definitely not more down on the Padres than I was when they started spring training.
Okay.
It hasn't been an unrelenting string of injuries and bad news.
We need to start this segment, I suppose, with what were your confidence levels heading into spring training?
They were
that
modest.
was the question.
I mean, we had a lot of question marks. There still are a lot of question marks about this team going into the season. But it was the unknowns were just all over the place a month ago in terms of the outfield, and there are still unknowns, obviously, in terms of the pitching rotation. And I've seen enough, at least, on both of those fronts that I am less concerned than I was a month ago. So I guess more confident than I was a month ago that the Padres have some answers, at least, to those questions. Not every answer. They don't have an all-star at every position,
Right.
but they have some of those answers that I've been looking for in spring training. And I want to go position by position just quickly and give you kind of my temperature from a month ago to now. And we'll start behind the plate, where I started out with pretty decent, expectations for Luis Campusano. I would say I'm even more excited and confident after what I've seen so far. Luis Campusano has had a good spring. He's looked ready to go. Talked to people like Sam Levitt and others who are at spring training, and he's been kind of a pick to be a breakout guy this year. He's been healthy so far. My optimism, my confidence behind the plate has gone up a little bit. Brett Sullivan is probably part of that reason as well. He's had a good spring, adding some depth. Kyle Higashioka looks like a solid backup. The Padres may not have the best catching core in the league, but seeing this last month has made me a little more confident that they're going to do just fine behind the plate this season.
There are a couple of things that we do just about every year leading up to opening day where we talk about, who is your breakout player for the Padres, your pick, or we've done the hypothetical, like, here's 4 guys. If one of these 4 you could guarantee had the best year of their career, who would it be? Like, who's the most impactful? I think Luis Campusano is a great answer for all of that, because you'll take your chances with Manny having a good year, Fernando having a good year. I think Xander having a career type year would be huge for this team. But man, if Campusano could live up to his hype and have just a breakout season, both behind the dish and at the plate hitting, like, that would be huge.
He's in a
for the
good spot
Padres.
because I think he's a little under the radar, especially nationally. So if he goes out and does even, kind of decently, everyone's
Right.
going to start going, hey, look at what the Padres have in this Luis Campusano behind the plate. Everyone will thought, well, I heard about Ethan Salas. What about Campy? Well, no, he's actually poised to kind of be that breakout player. At first base, which has been mostly Jake Cronenworth with a little Graham Pauley, I had a lot of concerns, obviously, based on Jake's last couple of seasons, and I am a little more cautiously optimistic. Jake has come in and settled my nerves a little bit by looking decent. The reflection that he has done, the changes that he has made, looks like they're taking hold a little bit. We won't know until the regular season hits, but I'm certainly not less confident in Jake than I was a month ago. He's had a good spring. He's looked good. He seems to be in a good place mentally. And I would hope that Jake can do better than he did last season for the Padres, build on what he did before he got hurt at the end of the year last year. so far, so good for Jake Cronenworth. Would you agree?
Yeah, I hate it because it's not good radio. I'm supposed to argue and have the different opinion than you here, but you literally stole my words that I was going to use. Cautiously optimistic with Jake Cronenworth right now.
Second base, I guess going in, I was pretty confident because I thought, well, Ha-Seong Kim is going to have another solid season. Now Xander Bogaerts is the second baseman. Xander Bogaerts is a great player, but I've got to say, I've got some worries, and I might be even a little less confident than I was starting the spring, just based on mentally where is Xander in this transition process. How long is it going to take him to get comfortable? Is it going to impact his offense while he gets comfortable at second base on the position change? It feels like if they're asking someone to do a little too much on this roster this year, that may be the guy in Xander Bogaerts. So this is my first position where I'd say I am actually a little less confident than I was at the start of spring training to now with the position of second base.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Going into the season, prior to spring training beginning, when we just assumed Kim was going to be there, you felt pretty good. I think Xander will be fine, is my guess, but I am less confident knowing that it's not going to be Ha-Seong Kim there. But I do think Xander will figure it out.
Now, shortstop's interesting because
I think in general, Xander, year two, a lot of guys, when they sign with a new team, it's always year two is when they settle in.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're feeling better. Now he's going to be switching positions.
Manny had a better year two.
That's the curveball, but I think he'll figure it out.
Blake Snell, had a better year two as they get more comfortable. You do see that. Now, at shortstop, kind of interesting because Xander Bogaerts is obviously considered an elite player, $285 million player. Are you actually more confident, though, having Ha-Seong Kim and his defense there? He's been outstanding this spring. Results don't mean a lot, but he has looked ready and locked in to go to have another big season in his contract, walk year, setting himself up. I feel at least the same amount of confidence I did at shortstop as I did a month ago.
I was totally fine with Xander Bogaerts being the shortstop heading into spring training. I'm just as fine with it being Ha-Seong Kim. I have no problems whatsoever. Anything hit to the left side, I know you're about to get to third base, but anything hit to that left side, I'm not worried about it in the slightest.
At third base with Manny's recovery, that's really all I've been looking at, and he hasn't had any notable setbacks. You still haven't seen him actually playing third base defensively in a Cactus League game. I'm not too worried about that. I'd say I'm about the same level of confidence I was a month ago. He hasn't gone out and hit like 3 homers and made all of my worries go away about what kind of season Manny's going to have, but it also hasn't been, oh no, Manny's not healthy, he's going to be out for a month or anything like that. So when it comes to third base, I'd say I'm also about the same level I was a month ago in terms of my confidence.
Yeah, no qualms with third base whatsoever. Manny could go 0 for spring, and you just know he's going to show up. He'll be there. He'll be Manny Machado.
Out in right field, my expectations were very high going into the season, and they remain very high. After a slow start, obviously Fernando's kind of kicked in the last couple of days. It's the trend you would like to see as you get closer to opening day, that your superstar player seems to be getting locked in. So I remain with my high confidence and expectations that right field is set for the San Diego Padres going forward. In center field, I think I can unequivocally say I am more confident than I was a month ago. Of course, a month ago, I had no idea who was going to even be out there.
Right.
Was it going to be Sugar? Was it going to be Marcy? A completely unknown quantity other than a good Arizona Fall League season. Now I feel like it's probably going to be Jackson Merrill out there for the Padres on opening day, barring an acquisition or a trade. And he has exceeded any expectation that I could have had for him this spring with what I've seen. He looks good. He says the right things. He puts the barrel on the ball defensively. He looks comfortable out there. And as a 20-year-old, while he will not be able to replace Trent Grisham's defense, that would be asking a lot in a guy's first season playing the outfield. I certainly think he can outperform what Grisham did offensively for the Padres last season. So in that sense, I'm actually a little more confident in center field than I was a month ago.
Oh, yeah.
For the San Diego Padres.
Do you think overall, do you think the Padres get more or less production in center field than they did last year?
More. I like where Sugar's at. He's likely going to be the the guy who's out there when Merrill's not out there at this point, and I like where Merrill's at. I think they're going to get more production. Lose a little bit defensively, but gain more offensively.
I don't think you're going to noticeably lose more defensively. Like, whoever's out there, whether it's Merrill, Pauly, Sugar, whatever, like, nobody's going to be dropping lazy fly balls that they're just camped under. You know what I mean? Like, they'll be fine defensively. Not as great as Grisham was, but they'll be fine. And I think offensively, I mean, it's kind of only one way to go.
And then
that's
finally, position-wise, out in left field, had a lot of question marks going into the season. Haven't really solved any, and it's been nice how some of the non-roster invitees have had good spring trainings, but that means so little to me that
we didn't have Profar heading into spring training. But does that change your confidence
Has he done
level?
anything this spring that makes you think that Profar is going to bounce back? Not yet. I mean, he might, but nothing that I have seen from the Padres in left field has increased my confidence level out there. It remains probably my biggest concern for the San Diego Padres, and it's why when we talk to David Schoenfield out there, really want to look at what possible left field options are still out there. I mean, maybe A.J. Preller is confident that an Oscar Mercado or a Cal Mitchell or Jurickson Profar can be the guy. I'm not. I remain very, very nervous about what could be a bit of a black hole position for the Padres this season, one that is supposed to be kind of an elite offensive position. You don't need a great defensive player out there. And it could be the worst offensive position on the diamond for the Padres this season.
Yeah. I mean, if they had went out and signed Tommy Pham yesterday, that would raise your confidence level a little bit, at least from when spring training began, which is the whole subject of this segment. But even then, like, no one's predicting Pham to be a first team all MLB or even an all-star.
I mean, there is a big margin where the Padres can improve out in left field still.
Right.
And I'm not going to let some good spring results for Oscar Mercado delude me into thinking that the Padres have a solution in left field. They don't, and I'm not that confident there. We'll get into some of the pitching, starting, and bullpen on our confidence level coming up. Also want to talk about the big announcement at San Diego State yesterday. New contract for one Brian Dutcher. Hour number 2 of Benham Woods coming up next year on 97.3 The Fan. Ben and Paul, hour number 2 on a Thursday morning, Throwback Thursday, 7 o'clock. And with Woods out until tomorrow, I'm going to do my best to channel a little bit of inner Woods here. He has a talent in making our bosses a little bit uncomfortable.
Oh,
it's not what I do. I like to make the bosses feel
it
very
might be
comfortable.
his favorite thing.
But Woods likes making him squirm, likes making Adam squirm, likes making Michael, our big boss here at Odyssey, squirm. And Michael's usually in the chat this morning. And I noticed, so yesterday, Brian Dutcher, they announced a new 5-year contract extension for Dutch.
Saw that.
Congratulations. Makes him the highest paid employee in the California State University system, which seems like, all right, is that really the point of education, is to pay the basketball coach the most? But this is how it works. You know, Nick Saban was the highest paid employee in Alabama. It's just, this is college athletics. They bring in a ton of money. He's done a great job, and it's still a fairly good deal for San Diego State. They get Dutch, an elite coach. It's not even one of the top 50 highest paid basketball coaches in Division I, even after the new deal. That's a no-brainer for San Diego State.
He's not top 50?
He's not even top 50 with the new deal. It's like 51st. So this is an affordable, good deal for J.D. Wicker to lock in Brian Dutcher.
Sounds like Dutcher got screwed.
But he's happy. He likes it here. He says, I'm not a job chaser. This is the last job he's ever going to have.
Wasn't it a couple of years ago there was speculation like, oh, he could be heading back home to Minnesota?
There was.
I hated that.
He had less buyout to, like, if Minnesota wanted to hire him. They got rid of that in this new deal. Dutch isn't going anywhere. He's going to be an Aztec for life. He will coach until his retirement and hopefully continue to have the success that he had. But here's where I think, things can feel a little bit maybe uncomfortable at work. I didn't realize that what Dutch did was even possible. So Dutch, he just signed an extension not that long ago. I think in the last year and a half or so, he signed a 3-year extension through like 2026. And like we just signed an extension not that long ago as well, just a few months ago that just kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it doesn't mean that you can't already start reworking your deal. If you're having a lot of success like Dutch did going to the national championship game, or like we've been having, just absolutely killing it, number one station, number one show, perhaps it's not too soon to start thinking about a new deal. And here's the genius part for Dutch. You know when that 5-year deal kicks in? It's not after the last extension that he signed. It's retroactive.
Ooh.
He actually was going to get paid like $1 million this year. Now he's getting paid $2.25 million. They just have to erase all the checks they sent him and add to them because he started making more a few months ago based on this new deal. It's genius. It's genius. It's a retroactive contract extension. And it
capitalizing off a run to the NCAA championship game.
A run to the top. And we've made our run to the top. So I thought perhaps we might want to start discussions about a retroactive contract extension a la Brian Dutcher for Ben and Woods.
Adam, if you're listening,
get that talks going.
We'd like to schedule a lunch for Monday afternoon.
I think so. Get the Dutch deal going. And we can talk about, you can add a couple of years at the end. We can retroactively bump our salaries for, this year already. And everyone can be happy. You can lock us up for that lifetime deal that Michael was looking for. We can discuss that when we are here at the peak of Ben and Woods, just like Brian Dutcher is at the peak.
Maybe the best idea you've ever had.
I like it too. So, I think we've come a long way since we asked the question, is Brian Dutcher on the hot seat? About 4 or 5 years ago, stepping into those giant Steve Fisher shoes. He has not only filled those shoes, he's needed a couple of bigger sizes, perhaps, with what he has done for the San Diego State basketball program. And take nothing away from Fish. Fish had the hard job of, taking a program that was the lowest of the low in college basketball.
Could not give tickets away.
And building something that he could then hand over to Brian Dutcher. But I mean, if you just look, apples to apples in terms of the success that Dutch has had right away, I mean, it's incredible. He's gone to the tournament. essentially 5 of his 6 seasons. Obviously, the COVID year was canceled, but they were going to be a 1 or a 2 seed that year. So I'll give him credit for 5 of 6 seasons. It'll be 6 of 7 coming up here in a couple of weeks when they make it to the NCAA tournament again. It's a run of success that you've never seen at San Diego State. They've gone to a Final Four. They're raising banners. I know they didn't win the regular season this year in the Mountain West, but no one wants to face them in March. You know, the San Diego State Aztecs remain the class of that league, and Dutch just continues to add to that culture, brings in new players. They just continue to play some of the best defense in the country year in and year out. The consistency, I think, is what is most remarkable about the San Diego State basketball program. It's hard to do. Even the big programs, you know, if you're not Duke or North Carolina or Gonzaga, it's hard to have the kind of consistency that San Diego State has now built over these last few years.
Yeah, and steady hand with recruiting and all of that. It all plays a factor. Glad to have Dutch here for another 5 years.
All right, we need a contestant. It's a Throwback Thursday, so we're going to play Real or Fake here in a couple of minutes, try to qualify someone for that getaway to the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, the $150 dinner credit as well, 833-288-0973. No Woods, no musical trivia knowledge necessary, simply our guessing game of Real or Fake coming up here in a couple of minutes. The Aztecs return to action tomorrow night. It's senior night. We'll get to honor guys like Jaden Ledee and Lamont Butler for their major contributions to this program. The show will be in full force, and they will take on Boise State. And they kind of need to win in order to avoid a potential 6th seed in the Mountain West tournament. If they win, they'll be locked into that 4 or 5 seed game in the quarterfinals next Thursday, which isn't a bad place to be, actually. You know, they don't need to win the Mountain West tournament to get in, but you can make a run from the 4 seed and win that tournament. It's not, you know, the Aztecs, I think like 1 through 5 seeds, they win it all the time in the Mountain West tournament. So you just don't want to get into that 6th seed where you don't have a bye and you have to play a 4th game to get to that would really be a tough way to do it. If they lost, then they could drop to the 6th seed, and then they'd probably put themselves behind the 8 ball. But so tomorrow's a big game. Try to finish off a perfect season at home against Boise State with the Broncos coming in and avenge your only other, you know, your last loss. You beat every other team that you lost to on the road. You beat them at home. You beat Boise State, then you'll have beaten every team in the conference this year that you played. So you've got to feel fairly confident going into neutral sites that you've done it before against every team. Why couldn't you do it 3 more times and win that conference tournament coming up?
So is it set in stone that a win or a loss is the difference between playing on Thursday in the Mountain West tournament?
No, if they lost, but New Mexico lost to Utah State on Saturday, I think the Aztecs would still end up as the 5 seed,
Okay.
so they could backdoor their way. You don't want to end the year with 2 straight losses, though, and your first home loss of the year. That would be a real downer heading into the NCAA tournament to have that kind of momentum. So you want to finish off that perfect season at home. Beat Boise State. It's quad 1 game. Boise State, I think, is up to like number 26 in the net rankings. So even at home, that would be a quad 1 game. UNLV is nearly a quad 1 game. They're up to 76. If they go up 1 more spot to 75, that quad 2, the only quad 2 loss, turns into a quad 1 loss for San Diego State. So their resume remains quite strong for the NCAA tournament. And I think a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament is still a possibility with a win tomorrow and, you know, at least a couple of wins in the Mountain West tournament next week. But we'll talk about that going into next week where the Aztecs are. Right now, I see plenty of people calling in to play a little Real or Fake, so let's get to today's game.
Some are here for the compelling sports talk with Ben and Woods. Yeah, you can go plow through another donut. It's time for Real or Fake on 97.3 The Fan. Tell the people what they'll win today.
All right, we're playing for that 2-night stay at the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, and dinner for 2. Immerse yourself in timeless elegance at Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, luxury resort, gaming, and meeting destination. Book now at FontainebleauLasVegas.com. And we got Derek as our contestant this morning. Derek, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I'm good.
What's up,
I'm
Derek?
good. If you were listening yesterday, I actually teased the topic because we were discussing MLB The Show, their new play as a female character that was in the news. And MLB The Show, the video game, is today's topic for Real or Fake. So developed by San Diego Studio, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, MLB The Show 24 comes out later this month. Now, the first official MLB The Show game came out in 2006. Paulie, do you remember who was on the cover? 2006?
2000. The first one
First
was
one.
Big Poppy.
Big Poppy, David Ortiz. You do well on this game because today on Real or Fake, I'm going to name an MLB star, Derek. You need to tell me if they were ever a real cover boy for MLB The Show or if it's a fake I've thrown in to fool you. Now, do you play any video games, Derek?
I do. I love the show.
Ah, then
All
you
right.
should be pretty good in this game. All right, round number 1, real or fake MLB The Show cover. Jose Altuve, real or fake,
Fake.
Derek? Oh, wow, that was fast.
Fake.
Oh yeah.
This sounds like he's going to do
Derek's
quite
gonna do
well.
just
That is,
fine, I
one, you
think.
need 4, obviously, to qualify for the grand prize. All right, round number 2, Mookie Betts, real or fake?
Fake.
Fake. Oh, my God.
He's wasting no time.
He is
Should we just give
wasting
him the
no
prize
time.
now?
Yeah, probably. Round number 3, Adrian Gonzalez.
True.
Real.
Real.
2012.
This is impressive.
I did not realize this was going to be so easy for people out there. All right, round number 4, Buster Posey.
Ooh.
I made him think at least.
Fake.
It is fake, and you are a winner. Let's see if you can just do it perfectly here. Round number 5, Josh Donaldson.
That's real.
Yeah, it is. The just retired Josh Donaldson was the cover boy in 2016. Round number 6, Albert Pujols.
Real.
Gotcha.
got him. We got him.
I was stunned. I went through the list. I looked like 4 times. You go, Albert was never on the cover?
Wow.
Never on the cover. And then finally, David Wright, Derek.
Fake.
That is real. I should have started with those 2. Well, you know what? You got 5. That's good enough. He was on the second year in 2007, the Mets star David Wright. But 5 is good enough. Hang on the line, Derek. Paulie will put you on
hang
hold.
tight.
Get your information a little bit after traffic in the break here, and we'll put you into the drawing for the Fontainebleau Las Vegas. So I assume you've played a lot of MLB The Show?
Surprisingly, not much.
Not really?
I've always been more of an Xbox guy, and up until just the last
It's
couple
been
of
a
years,
PlayStation.
they were PlayStation only. I think the first year that they merged with Xbox was the year Tatis was on the cover, and I have that one. It's a fun game, though. I love the idea of the Dynasty mode, or the Road to the Show, I think it's called, and it's a lot of fun, made right here in San Diego. My wife actually worked for MLB The Show for years. So, yeah, big show family.
You can play an entire season, keep all the stats.
Mm-hmm.
People do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
How long does it take if you want to play a full 9-inning game? How long does that take to play?
It's been a while. I would say it depends on the mode, because if you play as just the Road to the Show mode where you create a player, it only sims up to your ABs or moments when the ball is hit to you defensively. Or if you're playing the standard mode where you're pitching and playing with every player, I'd say probably 45 minutes
For a game?
per game.
So if you're playing an entire season, you're devoting 100+ hours to play a full 162 game season.
Yeah.
It's dedication right there. That
Absolutely.
is video game dedication. Derek, congratulations. Woods, you'll be back tomorrow, so we'll have another game of Take on Woods on Friday as we, I think that's the 3rd person this week that is qualified for the Fontainebleau Las Vegas already.
And I'm not sure, but that may be the first time somebody's just gone 4 for 4.
Yeah, just right through. Usually real or fake, I can trip you up a little bit.
Somehow
but
it always goes to round number 7.
Derek
but
was
he
very solid
flew
on our
through
game
that.
today. All right, we got Don't Do This coming up next. I have an update on a Don't Do This story from the Iditarod earlier this week.
Okay.
Perhaps the most bizarre rule in any sport. I will use that term a little bit loosely for the Iditarod, but maybe the strangest rule that I've ever seen in any sport that came into play in a Don't Do This story from earlier this week. We'll get to that coming up. Also some poetry in Don't Do This, which is very rare. Not Emily Dickinson, from Major League Baseball player. All coming up next after a check of traffic with Ben and Woods here on 97.3 The Fan. Looking up at the TV right now, we've got MLB Network on, and they are going through the history of international openers. 2012 in Tokyo, A's Mariners. 2014, Australia, Dodgers against Diamondbacks. And then showing how teams like responded. Did they get off to slow starts? Did they end up with good seasons? I don't really think there's much to it. I mean, yeah, the Mariners and A's both got off to a bit of a slow start the year they played in Tokyo to start the first game of the season, like 11-13 to start the season. The A's ended up making the playoffs, but they were a good team. Mariners didn't, but they weren't a very good team that year. Dodgers did make the playoffs. Diamondbacks didn't. I don't know that it had a huge impact on the season, but if you're concerned about that, the Padres starting the season in Korea this year and whether that's going to put them behind, I wouldn't worry too much about that. The season will play out as it plays out, and by the time we get to mid-April, I think we'll have forgotten pretty much about Korea to start the year.
Yeah.
And you'll just be kind of in the groove.
Don't make that an excuse all year long.
No, I would say that would be a bad thing to use. Now, last year's weird spring with the World Baseball Classic, yeah, I mean, there was something to that. This year, even though they're going to Korea, they're all together. They started early. If anything, it could end up being a positive for the San Diego Padres to do this. So I'm not ready to just jump in that as an excuse for the team this year. All right, don't do this. I will get us started today, and I will begin with an update. I told you about the Iditarod, the five-time champion, Derek Seavey, who had to kill a moose that got tangled in his dog sled's lines, essentially, early in the race. Now, here's the update, and this is where it comes, the weirdest rule I've ever seen in sports come into play. So, according to Iditarod race rules, and you don't see this in like the NBA, if a musher kills a big game animal like a moose, caribou, or buffalo in defense of life or property during the race, rules require they gut the animal, remove its intestines, and then report it to officials at the next checkpoint.
What in the hell?
And the Iditarod referees ruled that Seavey did not do a good enough job gutting the moose and have penalized him 2 hours at the next rest point, that he's got to wait for 2 more hours to start because he did not spend enough time. He only spent about, they said, 10 minutes gutting the moose. And he needed to do a better job in removing its entrails and intestines in order to comply with race rules. Now, that to me has to be the strangest rule I've ever encountered in sports.
That might be the weirdest rule I've ever heard.
Seavey said, the moose fell on my sled. It was sprawled on the trail. I gutted it the best I could, but it was ugly. Just didn't have a lot of maneuverability. He said, I'm just getting going on the trail. Now, if you want to feel good about this, at least a little bit, race officials did go back, and they sent a team that gutted the moose, treated it, processed it for meat, and that meat was going to be used for feed the dogs or whatever on the race. So, no waste, and the moose's life was not taken completely in vain, but he was penalized 2 hours, and he'll have to serve that at the checkpoint. It's a 1,000-mile race. You can overcome a 2-hour penalty because it's many weeks long, and you guys won it a few times before, but I thought that was maybe the strangest rule I've ever seen in sports, that if you kill a big game animal, you have to remove its intestines, of course, before you can continue on with your race.
Sure. All right, I got a story here. I think inherently Netflix, we've talked about Netflix in the past, trying to get more into the live sports scene. And they've done that before with some golf matches. I think they just had a tennis match.
I mean, the documentaries are great. Season 2 of Full Swing just hit. I have not watched it yet, but I certainly will.
The documentaries
on PGA
are
Tour
elite,
players.
But they want to get more into the live streaming platform, and I think that's fine. The don't do this here is that it's pretty much an automatic don't do this for me with the celebrity fights, or even just the trying to make a fight seem like it's a bigger deal than it really is. And we just got a new one announced today that Jake Paul will be fighting live on Netflix this summer against Mike Tyson. I think that's don't do this for me. I have less than zero interest in watching this. Jake Paul will probably win. I mean, how old is Mike Tyson at this point?
So I saw a video just very recently of Mike Tyson, like in training, and it was He's 57.
57.
It was
He'll be
impressive.
58
I
when
mean,
this
he
happens.
was moving like a 30-year-old. The guy still has the speed, the hands. I would not be totally confident if I was Jake Paul going into a ring, even against a 57-year-old Mike Tyson. Now, to be fair, Jake Paul has proven himself to be more than just a social media star who wants to get into the ring.
I think you're naturally inclined to just assume he's a clown. And he's a clown.
He is a clown, but
he's not going to, he can't win.
But
He's not a
people
good
who know
fighter.
fighting have generally given him decent marks that he's not. It's not like the celebrity boxing matches where two actors get into the ring and start taking swings at each
Jake Paul's
other.
first fight was against Nate Robinson, the former NBA player. Like that was stupid. But he has gone on to become he's trained as an actual fighter. He has fought actual fighters, and I've seen the same marks that he's actually pretty good.
I'm gonna lean into the do this nature of it. So it's gonna be free if you have Netflix. You don't have to it's not pay-per-view.
It's an exhibition boxing match, and I believe it's going to take place at AT&T Stadium.
The curiosity might get the best of me here. To see Mike Tyson in a ring again, and Jake Paul, and I don't have to pay $69 for pay-per-view. I might actually watch it. Is that bad? Is that wrong of me? I don't know.
If you want to, man, go for it.
I've got some curiosity here.
Tyson hasn't fought. He last had an exhibition boxing match back in November of 2020.
I don't remember how he did.
His last pro fight was 2005.
Yeah, it's been a while. Now this is an exhibition. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Netflix. They think that they can make some inroads with the jump on the Jake Paul bandwagon.
Oh, we got sheep like you. Oh,
I know. Okay, I'm bad. Don't do this for me, then, to even consider it. All right, finally, I saw this MLB's social media account yesterday.
DD Mega Doo-Doo
Posted a video of Dylan Cease, Chicago White Sox pitcher, potential trade target out there, revealing that he once spent time in the shower writing an ode to his own slider. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I like when a baseball player can be more than just a baseball player, like show his other side, his softer side, his sensitive side. And I actually, he only revealed the first couple of lines. I actually found the entire lyrics or verse of his poem called "Oh Slider Slide" by Dylan Cease. And since I already read raps and romance, I thought, why not a little Ben Reed's poetry this morning?
I love it.
With lyrics by Dylan Cease. So here we are. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. Past the batsman, I send my slider to hide. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. Past the batsman, I send that round cowhide. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. A fortune staked on you lest I overstride. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. In the strike zone, indeed, a win is implied. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. The humans can't believe my 3,000 RPM and fastball ride. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. Your execution can earn you a bride. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. Even the backup tried. Oh, slider, slide. Oh, slider, slide. To the back foot of a lefty. Check swing. And the ump is wrong. By Dylan Cease. Oh, slider, slide.
I'll give him that one.
It's not bad.
I like it.
It's not bad at all. The old don't rhyme the last line to surprise everybody.
Right.
Not bad. He's got multitudes. Dylan Cease has some hidden layers to him that we didn't know about until yesterday.
Saw earlier he is expected to start in the minor leagues this year, but you will probably most likely see him at some point in a big league uniform.
I would think so. And that is Don't and Do This for a Thursday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, we have a couple of guests joining us today, which is a couple of more than we usually have when Woods is here. But given that he's not, I'm going to flex out a little bit. And David Schoenfield from ESPN is going to join us. When we come back, I want to focus on the remaining free agents, if any of them could be potential fits for the Padres, the pros and cons. I mean, are we building up Tommy Pham in our mind as a potential answer for the Padres? Are there teams that are still interested? What does he make of this free agent market? ESPN baseball writer David Schoenfield will join us when we come back with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Every day that ticks off on the calendar and we get closer to the regular season and you still have top free agents on the market, it is surprising at this point that Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery remain unsigned so close to the season. And there are still some free agents out there that could potentially help your San Diego Padres. I mean, we've been led to believe they at least have a little bit of flexibility. That's what A.J. Preller has said. They are still under the luxury tax level by around $20 million. Is there someone who could help the San Diego Padres that's still on the market at that level? We've talked about the names before, but ESPN's David Schoenfield's been tracking free agency all offseason long. We're going to chat with him right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Couple of North County problems now. Northbound side of the 15 before Carmel Mountain Road. There's a two-vehicle accident. Looks like that is in the HOV lane. Also traveling on eastbound 78 at El Camino Real off-ramp. A stalled vehicle over to the right shoulder. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Crazy to think that 2 weeks from this morning, we'll already be 2 games into the season for the Padres and the Dodgers. And then 3 weeks from this morning, everybody will be waking up on opening day in baseball. It'll be Padres Giants down at Petco Park. Looking so much forward to it. And I know our next guest is also looking forward to it. One of our favorites. It is a pleasure to welcome back ESPN's David Schoenfield to Ben and Woods here on 97.3 The Fan. David Woodsy's off today. You got me, you got Paul. How have you been? How's the offseason treated you?
I'm doing well. It's at that point of spring training. I don't know if you guys agree with this. We just want the season to start, right? We've read enough of the hype and all the hope that every team has. Let's just start the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Padres reported on Super Bowl Sunday, which was like a month ago. We went out to spring training last week. At the beginning of the week, we were there for a few days. We're more than ready for the season to start. But let me start something you and Bradford Doolittle wrote yesterday. When you're a radio host, you're going to make some wrong predictions. Last year, though, I think I made one of the most incorrect predictions ever when I said I can't see any of the 2022 National League playoff teams really changing to 2023. I mean, you look at it, it's got to be. It's going to be the Dodgers, Braves, Cardinals, Mets, Padres, and Phillies again in 2023. There's just no way that those 6 teams aren't going to be back. Well, as it turned out, 3 of those teams did not return to the postseason in 2023, including the San Diego Padres. And yesterday, you guys posted the odds of the 2023 playoff teams missing the playoffs for 2024. And I'm not going to make the same mistake again. David, I know there will be some playoff teams from last year that don't make it again this season, right?
Yeah, so you're going with the Dodgers and the Braves, right? Not making the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hear you.
Exactly.
I wouldn't agree, but it's a little out of left field. Yeah, that's it's the kind of the mistake we all make is we just look at last year and kind of project the same stats and the same results happening when history tells us that isn't the case, So. And especially in the National League, obviously, we know the Braves and the Dodgers are way above everybody else. The Phillies look pretty good, pretty safe, but, you never know. They only won 90 last year. There's ways they could fall apart, But the middle of that National League, it's so crowded. It's really just almost impossible to predict. I'd throw out the Nationals and the Rockies, but everybody else has a shot, so it's going to be crazy. And, yeah, I mean, the Marlins were the #1 team on our list, and that makes sense. They were outscored last year, had an unbelievable record in one-run games, and snuck in. Probably not going to happen again this year.
You've been tracking free agency throughout the offseason. Now, first of all, let me ask you, do you feel like baseball, and the discussion's been out there lately, should have more of a window like football and basketball, a deadline for free agency so you can do all of this, get it done maybe in December or by early January, and we don't need to be worried about free agency now still here on March 7th? Or do you see the agent's point and go, hey, you put an artificial deadline on this, it's going to be bad for the players, they're going to cave and accept worse contracts? Where do you kind of lie on the old signing deadline in the offseason?
Yeah, well, look, as a fan, it would certainly be much better. And, not that I always usually agree with the commissioner, but that's certainly his viewpoint, and we see the excitement when we have those free agent windows, right, in the NBA and NFL. and it gets done. You get all the headlines, So, yeah, it makes sense to have that signing period, in December at some point. But the Players Association, that's been a non-starter for them. I'm not sure if it would really change the final results of contracts all that much. It would kind of force teams to come up and say, here's what we're going to give you, rather than drawing out these negotiations. Now, the only hiccup would be what we're seeing now, right? The Red Sox, they lose Lucas Giolito probably for the year. So suddenly now they're a little more desperate, and maybe they'll get a Blake Snell or a Jordan Montgomery. So that's one reason the union, doesn't want to see this, but it'd be better for the sport, I think.
Talking to ESPN's David Schoenfield with us, and I don't know, it feels like there was an inflection point, because early in the offseason, you saw some of the deals, not just Ohtani's $700 million and Yamamoto's $325, but even some of the, kind of the lesser players who were getting bigger money than I thought, like Sean Manaea, and just contracts that I thought, wow, those are good deals for players. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks ago, the signings stopped, and now you're seeing guys take deals with opt-outs like Matt Chapman that aren't as much. Yep. Are there bargains to be had at this point with the remaining free agents in the market out there?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. You look at those guys out there. Blake Snell, we were hearing at one point in the offseason he wanted $200 million or something. We don't really know what the offers were.
Well, we all want $200 million, David. There's just very few of us who can even potentially consider actually getting it.
A lot of video games Snell could buy with $200 million.
And shoes.
Yeah, so there's no doubt, Scott Boras, I think he overshot his demands this winter. We're seeing that, And, Matt Chapman can sit there and say, well, yeah, I could go out and prove myself and get a bigger deal next year. But, of course, if he doesn't have a good year, if he hits 220 again, he's not going to get that $100 million. I think you nailed it. Some of these guys that signed early, look at Aaron Nola. Austin Nola, talking to the Padres guys. Here's 7 years, $172 million. And he signed that right away to go back to the Phillies. You could argue he's more valuable than Snell. Snell certainly has more upside, but by signing early, he got a really generous contract for a guy that had a 4.68 ERA or whatever last year. And Snell and Montgomery rolled the dice, and they have nothing right now.
David, I'll ask you to put on your GM hat, and if you're AJ Preller and you're trying to find one bargain that you can use as a bat, maybe an outfielder of the remaining guys out there. We talk a lot about Tommy Pham because we're familiar with him. He's still out there. Let's see. Adam Duvall remains in free agency. You've got Michael A. Taylor, who can play center field. If you're looking just for a bat, a DH option, JD Martinez is still out there. There's Brandon Belt is a possibility. Padres certainly could use a left-hander. Who among the remaining position player guys do you feel like is the best bet on the board still?
Well, look, I'm looking at your roster right now, and I'm like, who is the DH on this team?
Yeah,
we don't know.
You don't have one. So, Jay, you mentioned the need for a lefty. Brandon Belt had a very good year last year. Not so good the year before. A little bit of a what's he going to give you? So to me, it's got to be JD Martinez. And I thought that going back to the start of the off season, that seemed like a good fit. Especially once we knew Ohtani was going to the Dodgers and they weren't going to bring him back. Had a really good year last year. Guy can still hit. He can rake. The Padres need another bat, so I'd go JD Martinez. And maybe you can afford Michael A. Taylor. Who's playing center field?
Probably Jackson Merrill at this point is what we're thinking. He's played their last 6 or 7 games and looking comfortable. I mean, if the season started today, I'd expect him to be out in center field.
You guys, I have no idea how he's looked out there. Obviously, I think he played a couple of games in the outfield last year in the minors, but no experience. Michael A. Taylor, at least that's another sort of a plan B if Merrill, struggles to – look, you're rushing into the majors anyways. Michael A. Taylor, really good defender, has some power. He's not going to cost you much. Doesn't get on base, but why don't you sign both Martinez and Michael A. Taylor?
All right. Well, or you can go and add to pitching depth here, David. And the Padres are also looking at the back end of their starting rotation. Now, I don't think Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery are coming simply because even on a short deal, it's going to push the Padres over the luxury tax. And, they haven't said it outright, but, actions speak louder than words. And it looks like the Padres are trying to reset their luxury tax. So is any of the remaining pitchers on the market who wouldn't put them over the luxury tax, are any of them intriguing to you? I mean, Michael Lorenzen has been connected once or twice to the Padres this offseason in discussions. Who else? I see Shelby Miller, Ryan Stanek. No one's blowing my hair back here at the bottom end of the free agent pitching spectrum.
Yeah, Lorenzen is interesting. It was really good in the first half with Detroit last year, made the All-Star team, had a career high 153 innings. Maybe not surprised me. He went over the Phillies and he threw that no-hitter, and then he just fell apart. Probably got tired. But if you're say we need a number 5 starter, look, he had overall 4.18 ERA for a number 5 starter. That's not bad. I know he's looking for a 2-year deal. Obviously, nobody's offering him a 2-year deal. So it's desperation time, and maybe you do that 2-year deal, but the second year is a team option, or you give the player an opt-out. So I could see a deal there. He's not, estimates at the start of the offseason were 2 years for $20 million. I'm sure that price now it's way lower than that. So I think the Padres can afford to sign a guy like that.
And then last guy who we didn't bring up, but he's sitting out there. He clearly wants to be signed. He looks kind of sad that he hasn't been signed yet.
I hate this. I hate it so much.
Is Joey Votto.
Yeah.
And, he's left-handed. He can be a DH. We certainly are entertaining as a radio host. We'd love to be able to talk to Joey Votto. That would be very interesting. Do you think he has any value left at age? What did we decide he was? 40, going to be
41, I thought.
41 this year. Is there anything left in the tank for a Joey Votto?
Yeah, look, we all love Joey Votto. I'm not sure that picture he posts on Instagram of him sitting on the bench looking all sad is the best way to convince a team. Maybe post videos of yourself hitting in the batting cage or something might be a little better idea. Look, he's the cut rate version of Brandon Belt. You don't want to give him or Martinez $10 million or whatever. Maybe you give Joey Votto a couple $1 million. He hit 202 last year, but 314 on base, 433 slugging. Basically, that's actually about a league average production. So there might be a little something in the tank. And again, Padres don't have anybody at DH right now. So that's kind of if you want to bring in a cheaper alternative at DH, maybe you roll the dice.
We were very excited about giving Nelson Cruz $1 million on an incredible bargain last year, and he was going to have an amazing bounce back season, and it didn't happen. So I guess once burned, twice shy here when it comes to the 40-plus-year-old.
No, that's the problem.
Veteran, but
he's look, as much like I said, we love him. He's probably done. That's why. But if you want to roll the dice on $1 million and give him a couple months, maybe that's your only option.
All right, just a couple more weeks to go, David. We're counting the days now until baseball starts officially. Appreciate you spending some time with us this morning. Thank you.
All right, you bet, guys.
David Schoenfield from ESPN going through some of the remaining free agents. J.D. Martinez, we haven't talked a lot about, Paul. I guess early in the offseason I would have said maybe too expensive to get a J.D. Martinez and plug him in. The Padres have other needs than going out there. But if he hasn't been signed yet.
If that value does start dropping.
33 home runs last year, 893 OPS, his best since 2019. He hit right-handers well, too, which is very important when you're talking about a Padre option. Since they're so right-handed, you need left-handers, but really what you need is people who hit right-handers. They don't have to be left-handed. If they can hit right-handers, okay. It doesn't matter what side of the plate they're coming from. Sure. And J.D. Martinez is a guy who has hit right-handers pretty well, especially last season. Does that make him a better option than, say, a Tommy Pham, who could give you clearly better defense in the outfield if you wanted to start him on an everyday basis. But offensively, JD Martinez, I think, injects more into your lineup than a Tommy Pham would right at this point.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument for either one. Pham helping you both at the plate and in left field versus JD just being your DH. What would you hope to get JD Martinez for? Like,
that's a good question. What I haven't even heard like numbers that are being bandied around.
was he
I mean,
at
if you
last
offered
year?
him,
He was at 12 last
yeah,
year?
if you offered him 7, would he even? I mean, would he laugh in your face?
I was thinking 8.
At this point, or is it getting late enough in the offseason that all of a sudden, $7 million sounds better than not being on any team? I mean, it is baseball, and they want to pay you millions of dollars. It may not be as many millions as you were hoping for, but it's still millions of dollars to play baseball. Do you make an offer like that to a JD Martinez?
What do we suspect the Padres have to play with still? 16 to 20?
$20 million, and you want to keep some wiggle room around the trading deadline possibly.
I mean, look, if you could
But clearly you can spend 10 right now and not be in too bad a shape.
If there was a way to get both Pham and Martinez, in the
Now, they'd both
$8 million
yeah,
range.
I mean, they'd both be right-handed, but again, Martinez hits righties well. Or is it like a Belt Martinez combo if you get both of those guys? I mean, you could really
and you still
you
have
could
a left
really
fielder.
improve the offense by doing that. Or do you target one of the pitchers like a Lorenzen? I don't know. Lorenzen doesn't do much for me. I know he threw that no-hitter last year. He had a good start to the season, but
He fell off pretty
he
hard.
fell off really hard at the end of the year. And the other guys like Shelby Miller and Stanek.
Well, with the going rate for any starting pitcher these days, I just there's nobody out there where I'm like, yeah, that's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I will throw out, because we were doing our position players. DH is an area where I'm probably even less confident in what the Padres are going to do this season than I was at the start of spring training. At the start of spring, I'm at least going, well, Manny will probably DH at the beginning of the year. I don't know if he is or he's not, but as soon as Manny moves into that third base role, whether it's day 1 or day 7 or day 20, I have no idea who's the best option. It's not Matt Batten, I'll tell you that. He's had a rough spring.
Yeah.
Who is the Padres DH going forward? That is an area they need someone. They need another bat. They need another bat on this team.
That would be if you could look into the future just a couple of weeks away and know who was going to be slotted in at DH.
I'd feel more comfortable at this point. All right, we'll continue our discussion of whether you're more or less confident in this Padres team based on what you've seen over the first 4 weeks of spring training. Talk about the pitching staff and the bullpen coming up as well. You can join us, 833-288-0973. Second half of Ben and Woods on the way on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hour number 3, Ben and Woods on a Thursday morning. Paul Reindl, Ben Higgins. No Stephen Woods today. He is, I wonder if he's up yet. It's 8 o'clock. I mean, it would be very unusual for Woodsy to be asleep at this time. But, as you said, his concert didn't even start until
9 or 9:30.
9 or 9:30 last night. And when Woods goes, he goes pretty hard. So he may be
I bet he's waking up right now.
kind of just groggily.
I think even with a late night or a rough night, that man does not sleep in past 8 o'clock.
I don't think so.
Is he listening? Doubt it.
I
hope
hope not. I do hope not. If you're off, you're
when
off.
any of us are off, be off.
Take your time, and then I'm glad that he's coming back tomorrow because there's definitely Woodsy's got that mentality. Like if I take off Thursday, I might as well just take off Friday and make it a 4-day weekend. But he said, you know what? I'm going to be here. I'm coming home on Thursday. Why wouldn't I just come into work on Friday? So we will have Woods for you for the final day of the week tomorrow, and I'm glad. I will be glad to have my colleague and co-host back to join us. Our thanks again to David Schoenfield, who just joined us, talked about free agents. And maybe I'm living in fantasy land. You know, we're throwing out $7 to $10 million for J.D. Martinez. And most experts say that J.D. Martinez, I've kind of been looking it up. The Mets have been talking to him a little bit, but don't apparently seem to be close to a deal. But they say he really should get more than Rhys Hoskins did coming off the injury. And Rhys Hoskins got a 2-year, $34 million contract from the Brewers. So that's $17 million per. And I kind of subscribe to that argument as well. If you could get J.D. Martinez, why would you have settled for Rhys Hoskins at the same price? So it makes it seem like JD's probably looking for more than that, closer to $20 million. And if he's really looking for close to $20 million, don't know that the Padres are going to be able to fit that in
So
under
that
what
probably puts them out.
we think is the budget. So you're going to have to look for a lower priced version of a JD Martinez. Is that a Brandon Belt? Is it Tommy Pham? Is it Joey Votto that's still out there and available if the Padres are trying to add a bat? But I think we all agree they need a designated hitter. And I don't know that they've found an answer. I saw somebody in the chat bring up Graham Pauley, and it's a possibility. I mean, if you're going to put prospects up on the major league roster, if Jackson Merrill is going to be starting every day, and you're going to have another guy, whether it's a Pauly or a Marcy, having a veteran designated hitter would take at-bats away from the guys that you need to be playing every day. And you could have, if Pauly's up, you kind of need him to be the designated hitter. Otherwise, where is he going to be getting the at-bats? If he's just backing up Jake Cronenworth at first base.
You don't want him up there just collecting dust on the bench.
You don't really want him, you don't want him not developing. So the only way you could really have Graham Pauley on the roster is by not going out and signing a veteran DH, because you'd need him to be in there in the lineup, whether he's playing first base and letting one of the veterans be the DH for a day, or he's DHing for the day. That would likely be the way you'd have to go. So, if the Padres do sign a veteran, it probably means that they want to keep some of these younger guys in the minors for a longer period of time developing.
I think even with the Padres' desperate need for bodies, which they've still got that need, you don't want to rush these young guys. And we kind of talked about it with Jackson Merrill. Is it rushing him, or is he forcing his way onto the roster, or is it a little bit of both? You can't have too many guys like that, though. I mean, Graham Pauley would have to really force his way onto the roster.
I'd say you can have one guy like that on your team.
And I think it's Jackson Merrill.
If you consider yourself a playoff contender, even a playoff contender can have one young, upcoming guy that you don't know exactly what you're going to get from, but you can give him a shot. It's a long season, and you can give him that opportunity. And if Jackson Merrill is that guy, I'm okay with that. That's not punting. That's not, hey, we're just seeing what the young guys can do and, hopefully, developing from the future. You can try to win and have a young guy in your lineup. The Rangers did it at the end of last season with Evan Carter. They didn't know what they were going to get from Evan Carter the last few months of the year. Turned out they got a lot from him, and in the playoffs as well. Padres may get stuff from Jackson Merrill. Once you're going to 2 or 3 young guys, though, in your lineup, you're basically guaranteeing that 1 or 2 of them is going to struggle and fail and have to be sent back down to the minors. That's not a recipe for being in contention. So, I mean, to me, it feels like you're pushing it. If you have both Pauly and Merrill in your opening day lineup, that's a bit of a stretch. Maybe the budget is going to require it, but I'd rather see a veteran at this point coming in and give the rest of those guys a chance to develop in the minor leagues a little bit more.
It's tough. In a perfect scenario, you would love to see an outfielder, a DH, and a starting pitcher added to this Padres roster. And with a questionable $20 million to spend, I mean, I don't see how you can't address all three needs. All three needs, if you were to spend $20 million to get those three positions, all three of them would be like just taking flyers. Nobody would blow your hair back.
Yeah, I mean, if this was last year and, budget was no concern and we're spending what we want, you probably go out and you sign Pham and Belt to give you a right and left-handed option bat, and you get a Lorenzen to give you like a Waka type deal for depth in the bullpen, maybe kind of one of those.
Hope he can be this year's
1 year
Lugo
option.
or Waka.
Let him have an opportunity to be a Lugo or but if you sign all those guys, then you blow over the luxury tax again, and you don't have that option. So, and you're blocking some of your younger players that you do want to see and get that opportunity to play at some point. So it's a balancing act. I mean, A.J. Preller's kind of on the tightrope this year when it comes to all the things he wants to do, but he also wants to compete and get the Padres to the playoffs, maybe save his job by not having a terrible season. And what's the best way to do that? It's he's kind of got his one hand tied behind his back here. He's got to develop the young players. There's no way he can be successful in the future without developing some of the young players. But if he plays too many of them and the Padres struggle, he won't be around to see how those young players develop in the future because he'd likely be out of a job. So he's on the tightrope with a hand tied behind his back, trying to figure out a way to both compete and develop young players at the same time. The hardest possible job for a general manager in baseball.
You think, this is the year. You have to start seeing production from your homegrown guys. We haven't really seen it. In 10 years that A.J. Preller has been here, and more years than not, we've had a top 5, top 10 farm system. We've always talked about the prospects. It is time for one of those players to come up and contribute and be a quality MLB player.
It's very fair that we're all skeptical of the Padres minor league system ever producing on the big league level, given its history.
All the names that we have heard over the years, all the top prospect names that we have heard, who has come up and actually turned into a quality everyday MLB player?
And they don't all have to hit. No one's minor league system has 100% success rate.
No, of course not.
But if at least a couple of the guys right now, Merrill, Marcy, Pauly, Martorella, if a couple of those guys don't come up and start producing, at least, they don't have to come gangbusters, April 1st right out of the gate.
Sure.
But if by the end of the season you're not seeing, okay, this guy is definitely a big league player and he's only going to be getting better and we're seeing it on the field. At this point, why would you trust A.J. Preller to do anything going in the future? Whether it be develop a farm system or a major roster. He'll have proven essentially that he can't do either of those jobs. He's put together a highly ranked minor league system, but if it doesn't produce any major league talent, and when you put together a roster in the big leagues and it doesn't produce wins, you essentially don't do any aspects of your job well. So, he has to show us that the minor leaguers that he has identified as being talented, that other people have also identified as being talented, can produce on the major league level. Don't have to be all-stars this first season, but they have to be trending in the right direction. They can't look completely overmatched. These guys have to come up and start showing something, or there will be no trust in A.J. Preller going forward to do his job.
Yeah, and it's kind of you kind of shot yourself in the foot with the position that the team is in right now, because you could argue, it's not fair, to need these guys to come up. If they're not ready, they're not ready. But it's man, with all of the holes on this team still, you can't address it any other way but bring the minor leaguers up, the prospects up.
Correct.
So, and that's because where we're at financially with some of the contracts that have been handed out.
I will say, even if the Padres were coming off the 2022 season, hype, just went to the NLCS, big star-laden roster. I think if Jackson Merrill were in camp like this last year, he'd be pushing to make the roster based on what we've seen from Jackson Merrill. He's not just simply out there because he's the only option.
With an outfield last year,
he's earning it right now.
Grisham, Tatis, and Soto, I think he still would have been pushing if he was having a spring like he's having this year.
I think he'd be pushing Trent Grisham right now.
I think so, and at least a fourth outfielder.
I agree, absolutely. If you want to join us, phone lines are open, and this half hour is a good time to get in. 833-288-0973. We're talking about whether you're getting more or less confident in the Padres based on what you've seen. We went through the position players earlier. When it comes to the pitching staff, starting pitching, looking at what we've seen from, I can't say I'm more confident in the starting pitching. Michael King looks really good. I think the health of Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish has been a positive. We've seen some good things from the guys battling for the 4th and 5th spot. In particular, Brito and Waldron have looked good. We've seen some struggles from Avila. Vasquez struggled yesterday against the Reds in a 6-2 loss. Some of the young guys, may help later in the season, but I don't think that, Ariarte and Snelling have already been sent down to minor league camp, so they're not going to be there right away. Thorpe's still there. I don't know that he's coming up right away. I'm not less confident, I'll tell you that, than I was in the pitching. I can't say I'm a great deal more confident. It's probably about the same as I was to start spring training.
Yeah, I'm not concerned with Musgrove's starts so far in spring. You never know what these guys are going out there and working on, so I'm not concerned. Health is the only concern I have when it comes to starting pitching and spring training.
I'm excited about King, really am. I love what I've seen, but the question about King is, can he do it for 160 to 180 innings? And you don't get that answer in spring training. There's no way to get that answer whether he's ready to take on the workload of being a starter. He's got the stuff for sure, and we've seen it, and it looks good. Bullpen, I would say that I'm actually a little less confident just because I loved what they put together, and I'm not saying that I don't think it's going to be a good bullpen, but with the shaky outings by Robert Suarez, the Yuki Matsui back concerns, I don't even know. Like some of the guys who have performed well, like Jeremiah Estrada, are they even to make the team? I don't know. Bullpens look good, but my expectations were pretty high. I can't say that they're any higher. They're probably even a little more tempered than they were at the start of spring training.
That's been like the biggest area that has been addressed this offseason. It was the bullpen.
It was. But it's not like they've all gone out and been so great that I can't imagine them ever struggling. They'll have their ups and downs, as every bullpen does.
That's a scenario in which I lean on guys like Ruben Niebla and Ben Fritz, the bullpen coach. They know what they're doing.
I'd say
they're
putting it all together, though, overall, I'm a little more confident than I was at the start of spring training. Not like so confident, this is definitely a playoff team, but some of the concerns I have at least been lessened by what I've seen. There's a little more depth than I thought there might have been. I'm a little more confident at this point than I was 4 weeks ago.
I'm really right about the same. Yeah.
Let's see what some of the Tier 1s have to say. 833-288-0973. Let's go out to Wayne. Wayne, you're on with Ben and Paul this morning on 97.3 The Fan. Good morning.
What's up, Wayne?
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, basically, I think that everything that they've done so far this spring, I'm looking very positive on it. I am looking forward to the season. I don't think we're in dire straits right now at all. I think we're going to have a better year this year than last year. I think that the team is gelling better. I think that we really have a lot to look forward to this year. I'm not worried about the pitching. I think the pitching is going to be just fine. I think we need to get one more bat and one more pitcher, go cheap, see how well we can do with what we got.
Love the optimism, Wayne. Thank you for the call. I think one of the concerns that some guys are going to struggle, and we don't know who it's going to be. Is it going to be a young guy like Jackson Merrill? Will it be Jake going back into a slump at some point? Will Xander be in a funk because he's out at second base? How are the Padres going to handle the slumps this year? They did not handle them well last year. They could never get out of their funk pretty much all season long. You don't go through a baseball season without a funk, though. And when they get in their first rut, whether it's early in April, whether it's in May when they lose 4 of 5, or they win 2 in a row, but then they can't win that third, or they can't win that fourth in a row. How will they overcome that mental hurdle this year that they were never able to overcome until late September when it was too late last year?
Well, hopefully that's something that maybe Mike Schilt can make a difference.
I hope so.
Compared to Bob Melvin and
but it's
managers of the past.
It's an answer you can't get at spring training.
No.
There are no struggles.
Well, and the problem is
in spring training,
who's going to be coming off the bench if individual guys are slumping? Who do you
Great
have
question.
coming off the bench? We've spent the last hour talking about filling starting lineup positions. So if you got guys in your starting lineup struggling, we haven't even really talked about
if your
who's going to
bench
come off the bench.
is Sugar and Profar, and those are your bench guys. Those are fine bench guys in Major League Baseball, and they can come off the bench and they can spell guys for a few days. The worry is that those are your starters, and then you don't have a bench, and that's the concern. All right, we got other callers on the line, 833-288-0973. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back, get more of your thoughts, more or less confident in the Padres roster based on what you've seen so far this spring training. The discussion continuing after a check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan. Paulie, can I share what you said during the break, or is that private?
No, I don't know. What did I say during the break?
Paulie, you said that when spring training started, you thought the Padres probably looked like a fourth-place team.
Yes.
Now, 4 weeks later,
I still think they're a fourth place.
you still
team.
think they're a fourth-place team behind the Diamondbacks and the Giants.
Yeah.
Now, you can make the playoffs as a fourth-place team, but I don't think that a fourth-place NL West team is making the playoffs.
I'm not happy to admit that or anything.
They need to still need to add something, take a step up.
We're going to make our predictions for how each division plays out, and I just that's where I'm comfortable putting them right now, and nothing's really changed over the last 4 weeks to sway me to put them any higher.
We heard from David Schoenfield earlier, and obviously playoff teams change, but it would be my expectation that the Braves and Phillies have a really good chance of both making the playoffs from the NL East. Now, we'll see. Marlins could take a step back. Mets struggled last year, and, they've been a little more responsible with the money, so they may struggle again this year as well. In the Central, you figure the winner makes the playoffs, but they're not necessarily going to be a wild card contender. There could be 2 wild card spots up for grabs in the NL West, but you got to get by at least the Giants or the Diamondbacks to consider yourself a playoff contender.
I could see the Giants continuing to stay mediocre at best, and maybe the Padres could jump them. But
they've been aggressive. I mean, they signed Jung-Ho Lee. They signed Matt Chapman. They've made a trade. They got Hannah. They've been very aggressive.
Padres just haven't made those moves yet where I'm like, okay, all right, I'm feeling pretty
now,
good.
The Padres did last year. They made all the moves, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, and I didn't predict them to be a fourth-place
doesn't necessarily mean it'll work out for the Giants, but the Diamondbacks and Giants have both been very aggressive. Padres have been much more conservative. Will it backfire? Will it come back to bite them in the butt? Because they can't make the playoffs unless they get by at least one of those teams. You're not even thinking about chasing down the Dodgers, but you have to finish ahead of the Giants or Diamondbacks in my mind to make the playoffs. So that's who we're really comparing ourselves to here. 833-288-0973. Let's go out to RJ, judging our confidence levels here for Padres baseball on a March 7th. RJ, good morning.
Good morning, guys. I just wanted to let you guys know I'm very, very confident in what the squad has done. The reason why is I think with Bob Melvin, I loved Bob Melvin when we beat the Dodgers. But the last season, it just seemed like the Padres got very stagnant. And you start to see like they kind of take on the mantra of the coach. And it just seemed like it got stagnant. And it was a lot of ego. And he couldn't stop it. And maybe that's Preller, maybe it's, other factors that I'm not inside, I know. But this year, it just seems totally different. It seems like the guys are more humble. It seems like they're working as a team. There's a lot more chemistry. And, I know it's just spring training. It's easy to say that right now. But I feel as though the moves that they haven't done is going to make this team a little bit better for later on. Because I know A.J. Preller's not going to stand pat at the trade deadline. And with this squad, like I said, I just feel with Juan Soto, even him going with Michael King coming in, with some of the young pitching we got, I think Mike Schilt is a great developer of players, and he's proven that over his career, even with the Cardinals. So that's what I'm super confident about. I feel like with Schilt at the helm, that he's going to bring this kind of enthusiasm and passion and preparedness that I didn't see last year. And I think that's going to make us we might not win the division. I don't think we're going to I think we'll be chasing the Dodgers all year. But I think we'll win 85, 90 games. I think Schilt's proven that over his career with the Cardinals, what he's done. And I think that's what's going to help us get over the top. And I'm super confident. And like I said, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, RJ, and I'm going to agree with you a little bit, and I'm going to push back a little bit. I agree with you that just when we were out at spring training, there's a better atmosphere, there's a better vibe, and I'm not going to blame Bob Melvin. I'm going to blame the players for not creating it last year, and I'm going to credit the players this year for coming into spring training with a better attitude, just kind of a little more introspection. I think they've acknowledged what they did wrong last year, and they're ready to correct it. I don't know if that's a Mike Schilt thing or that's simply a players thing, but I will agree with you there. I will push back on a couple of things, though. First of all, when you said, I think A.J. Preller is going to be active at the trade deadline if the Padres are in contention. Probably. But what about A.J. Preller at the trade deadline wouldn't terrify you? His trade deadline moves have been pretty much
not great.
Universally his worst moves that he has made. He has been really bad at the trade deadline. If you analyze all the things that he has done over the last few years. Last year, G-Man Choi and Garrett Cooper and Rich Hill, they were not the difference makers, even though they played a little bit better down the stretch. 2022, okay. I mean, they didn't make they obviously
got Juan Soto.
He wasn't the difference maker down the stretch, but that was probably the best trade deadline.
You got Juan Soto, and you ended up in
2021,
the NLCS.
Adam Frazier. I mean, that was a disastrous trade deadline. Even 2020, when they made the playoffs, that was the what turned out to be the Austin Nola Seattle trade that didn't work out as well. AJ's trade deadline deals have been his worst deals.
Yeah.
He's made good trades, but they rarely come at the deadline. So if you're counting on a big deadline move to be the difference for the Padres,
and you got to be in contention
that
to
would
make
worry
those
me.
moves, to be a buyer at the deadline. And I think that alone is pretty optimistic that the Padres would be in a playoff position through the first 3.5-4 months of the season.
Let me get Terry in here before the bottom of the hour. Terry, welcome to Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
Hey guys, I think you're right in that this is really a first half plan to get to the trade deadline and figure out which way you're going. And I want to give you, we talked about chemistry. I think the clubhouse needs to be addressed with a couple players, and I want to give you two movies to think of. One is Roadhouse, and one is Tommy Boy. And I think you go get Sam because you put him in left field, and he's the big brother. He's the hammer. He'll tell people what to do, and they're going to follow him. You leave Jackson Merrill back in the minors. The other one, you bring back Will Myers and put him on the bench. You can use him at first, right field. He has the personality to be kind of that clown you need, so you bookend him with Pham, and you could slide him into center field with Tatis's range. So I think right there you start to address and you get this team kind of smoothed out, because if they don't start winning right out of the gate, you're going to slide right into what you had last year.
Is Will Myers does he even want to play baseball right now? I'm not even sure whether Will Myers is.
Who's his agent? Is he making any phone calls? I don't know.
So I'm not sure if that's part of the plan. When you say go sign Tommy Pham and put Jackson Merrill back to the minor leagues, I think
Jackson Merrill's still on this team, even if you sign Tommy Pham.
I agree. I think he's the center fielder, and Tommy Pham's the left fielder,
yeah.
and then Sugar and Profar are backups. I don't think Jackson Merrill is going anywhere right now. And then if you're
I
feel like Terry is advocating for going back to some of the things that didn't work for the Padres already.
Yeah, let's bring back Eric Hosmer, see if he wants to come out of retirement.
Didn't work for the Padres. Tommy Pham, while he seems like an upgrade, was not that good with the San Diego Padres. I'm hoping he could be better if they brought him back, but I think Jackson Merrill is it'd be very unlikely, I think, that he's not breaking camp with this team.
Tommy Pham has been good everywhere else he's played. It did not work here in San Diego. I would be willing, especially with the needs on this roster, to give him another chance if he's willing to take whatever money we can afford to give him. I think the fact that he is really tight with Mike Schilt also makes a difference. I'm all for it. I'm not for bringing back Will Myers, even at a veteran minimum.
I'm not even sure where he is right now. Probably in North Carolina on a golf course right now. I mean, Tommy Pham, I know, is in the batting cage probably as we speak right now, getting in 500 swings today, whether he's not on a team or not. I know he's working at it at the moment. I can't say that about Will Myers. All right. You know what? Whatever we think, I'm curious what Sammy Levitt thinks. He's actually been out there for this past 4 weeks, and whether he feels more or less confident in the San Diego Padres than when he showed up to spring training. We'll get a check-in from Sammy, even though it's an off day. He's agreed to join us for a few minutes. Coming up next with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Major League Baseball is currently in the process of announcing the stars, the young stars who will be playing in the spring breakout games later this month. And if I remember correctly, our own Sammy Levitt's going to be calling the Padres spring breakout game in a couple of weeks. We got Sammy on the line. He will join us right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Guys, we've still got some slick roadways, so you definitely want to take that into consideration. We got a spin out now on Claremont Mesa Boulevard off-ramp, southbound 805. Stalled car in the center divide on northbound 5, just past La Jolla Village Drive. And on the westbound 56 near Camino del Sur, there is a collision involving a couple vehicles there over the right shoulder. Going to see firefighters standing at various busy intersections around the county for the Fill the Boot drive, guys. It raises money for the Burn Institute, so if you got some spare change, drop some bucks into those boots. And they've also got QR codes in case you are traveling cash-free. You can just scan that QR code and donate that way. 25th annual boot drive. It's pretty amazing. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
And it's time to check in with Sam Levitt. Joins us live from Padres Spring Training, presented by your San Diego County Toyota Dealers Association. We make it easy, and Sammy, really appreciate this. I know this is the only scheduled off day for the Padres this spring. Closed to the media. Don't go to the facility today, even though there is a B game involving Joe Musgrove and Michael King. Is it nice to have a day off finally?
Yeah, it is. It's nice to wake up a little bit later, set some plans for the rest of the day. You're right. There is a B game going on, so there is a little Padre related stuff going on at the complex, but nothing too notable there, assuming all goes well for Joe and Michael King. But nice to have an off day, no doubt about it. Got up a little later, got a nice cup of coffee, talking to you, and we'll see what else the day has in store here in they call this area, I think, the Valley of the Sun, right? So we'll see.
You know what? I just wanted to, sorry, Paul, I wanted to bring up just the fact the B game today, it's obviously seems like they're trying to keep Joe Musgrove on track, likely to start the opening day game against the Dodgers. And then Yu Darvish is pitching tomorrow, and he will likely start the second game. Mike Schilt has not announced that officially and always says don't try to read too much into it. But every spring it's the same. You can generally do the math and line up guys for where the Padres are anticipating they're going to start. Do you think the fact that Michael King is pitching today as well, that the Padres may be planning to pitch Joe and Michael King in that first game in Korea against the Dodgers is kind of a piggyback, knowing that, neither of them is going to go 7 innings in the first game of the season, and that's why they're both pitching on a B game day today at the same time?
Yeah, I think Mike Schilt has been pretty clear about asking us not read too much into this kind of stuff, but when you consider that game is 2 weeks away now, it's a little bit less than 2 weeks away, I do think it is worth reading into. And we do know that in all likelihood, they're going to utilize their pitching a little bit differently for those 2 games in Korea. And why wouldn't you, right? I mean, you A, need guys to get their work in, and B, the games count. And why wouldn't you, with those 2 games, utilize somebody like Michael King? And for the record, Musgrove and King have been on the same day for a while here. So this isn't some new thing where they're both pitching on the same day. In fact, Joe pitched in a B game last week, and Michael King pitched over in Scottsdale the same day. So, Ben, I do think you can read into it a little bit and sort of assume that there's a good chance that Michael King may line up on Joe Musgrove's day for one of those games in Korea. Is that a guarantee? Obviously not. But when you consider those games and kind of the freedom you have to utilize some of your pitching because of the odd nature of the schedule, I don't think it's a coincidence, put it that way, and maybe not a coincidence that now for a couple of weeks they've been lined up on the same day. So definitely interesting. I think if we asked Mike Schilt about it this morning, he'd probably say it's a possibility they could use their pitching in that kind of way in Korea. But you never know. There's no guarantees. But I think it's worth noting for sure.
Talking to Sammy, Spring Training. So I just saw the tweet. Padres are announcing their spring breakout game roster right now. Have you heard anything officially, Sammy? I can't find the full roster yet, even though they put a link up. The graphic has a picture of Ethan Salas, Graham Pauley, Robbie Snelling, and Jackson Merrill. Now, I'd be surprised if Jackson Merrill were actually playing in that game because the team is going to be on a plane to Korea, right? And that's one of the reasons why you're going to be calling that game because Jesse and Tony are going to be flying to Korea with the team. I think Jackson's going to be on that plane and not playing in this spring breakout game.
Yeah, look, I think that's a pretty safe assumption at this point. We'll see. And by the way, the roster is at the very bottom of the article on Padres.com. You got to scroll down to get there, but if you can find it, it's down there. I'll send it to you if you can't find it. But Jackson Merrill in particular from that graphic and from the roster, I think it's pretty evident at this point with each passing day as we're a week away from them leaving for Korea that in all likelihood it's going to be a starter, and in all likelihood that's going to be in center field. What other names may be on that plane is still TBD, right? Whether that's guys on the active roster. The Padres are going to bring extra guys to Korea, which makes a ton of sense because you just need them for whatever reason, injuries, whatever might pop up. So that could also come from this group on the spring breakout roster. But I will say about the spring breakout roster, Ben, regardless of who's going to Korea, who's not, there's still a lot of names on here that's going to make it a really exciting game to watch because you have Ethan Salas, obviously. Leo DeVries is on the roster. Nathan Martorella, who's a pretty highly touted prospect. Sammy Zavala, Dylan Head, the first-round pick from a year ago. Homer Bush Jr., a high draft pick from a year ago, a really good college player and has played a lot in the backfields and a little bit in these Cactus League games. Great defense, really fast. So we're going to see ultimately who gets on the plane to Korea. I think we all understand Jackson Merrill out of that whole group. Nothing is a guarantee, right, until it happens. But in all likelihood, he's getting on that plane and he's on that active roster. But we'll see who else is heading overseas. But regardless, there's as far as the young prospects, man, a lot of really exciting and super highly touted guys still that'll definitely play in that game.
All right, yeah, I found the roster, and you're right. I mean, Jackson Merrill's on there, but so is Graham Pauley and Eggy Rosario, and some of those guys have to be going probably as the 31-man roster to Korea, so they can probably make some changes before they actually do play that game. Sammy Spring Training is with us from Peoria, Arizona. Off day today, but the Padres did play the Reds yesterday. You had a chance to talk to Jackson Merrill right after the game, and that young man remains very confident. He had a he had a quote about his barrels. Like, feels like, yeah, now I'm getting my barrels, one or two of them every single game. The kid does not lack for self-confidence. That's for sure, Sammy.
No, look, from the attitude, confidence, what you say standpoint, Jackson Merrill has had an outstanding spring training, right? I mean, you hear him talk about his defense yesterday. He got asked if he had been waiting for an opportunity to throw somebody out on the bases, and he said, about time, right? I mean, he just, from the confidence standpoint, the media standpoint, he's just got it. He's got it down. He knows what to say, and he's a very, very confident young man, and he should be. Look, it's going to be a big challenge for him at 20 years old with as limited experience at the upper levels of the minor leagues. He's had a really nice showing at spring training. We all understand that. But there's a difference between spring training and facing major league pitching day in, day out, the demands of potentially playing center field day in, day out. So, look, to this point, based on what he said, and you can watch the videos of him talk, and people and Padres fans should be really, really excited because it seems like from the mental standpoint, from the confidence standpoint, he's got it and continues to say all the right things. So, and honestly, from my perspective, I think I said to you earlier this spring, Ha-Sung Kim is sort of a cheat code when you post them. Right now, Jackson Merrill's like number 2 on that list. Whenever he does something, he talks, people are gravitating towards it, and you just hope the performance as he gets his major league career started matches up with the level of confidence, and hopefully it does.
As often as I profess, you can't read too much into spring results. I've been to spring training for a quarter of a century now, and I know that one bad, especially by a pitcher, one bad outing means so little even I still get caught up in the trap when I see Randy Vasquez struggling yesterday. Well, all of a sudden now it's got to be Waldron and Brito as the last two starters, because those are the only two guys who have really consistently done it every single day. That's not really fair. And Sam, I wanted to get your kind of take here on where that pitching competition stands, because it doesn't. Yeah. You can't just look at the ERA of guys in the spring and go, well, it's definitely Waldron and Brito. It can't be Avila. It can't be Vasquez. They've struggled more. Where does it really stand, and what was your impression yesterday of Randy Vasquez? Obviously not his best day.
Yeah, Randy Vasquez got hit hard yesterday. There was no way around it. I mean, it was 3 home runs. It was a lot of hard contact. It stood out yesterday for sure. Obviously, Pedro Avila's had his struggles this spring. But then you have two guys, and Matt Waldron in particular, and Johnny Brito, who's been pretty good so far this year. So if you're just, or should say so far this spring. So if you're just going off the spring training results, I mean, it would be Waldron and Brito to this point. But as we know, and to your point, Ben, that's not always what it's about. In fact, a lot of times it's not always about that. And there's additional data, additional considerations that go into this stuff well beyond what the spring training results are. And I think you said earlier in the show, you have to take spring training results with a huge grain of salt. So I still, to this point, don't have a great handle on what the Padres are going to do with those 2 final rotation spots. I think part of that is that they don't have to decide yet, right? I mean, we talked about Michael King being on the same day as Joe Musgrove, and you know, it's a good example of the pitching for the games in Korea may very well be different than normal pitching plans. So the Padres may not have to ultimately decide what they're doing here with these rotation spots until we get closer to opening day at Petco Park. So it's a tough one. I don't have a great handle on who's the front runner. You know, certainly there are considerations, spring training results, the option situation with Pedro Avila, I think, is a really interesting one, because Pedro Avila has had some success in the major leagues and did really well in that swing man, long man, whatever you want to call it, roll out of the bullpen last year. But to this point, if you're going by spring training results, then right now I think it's Waldron and Brito, but that is far, far from any kind of guarantee that those are your 2 final guys in the rotation. And I'll tell you, for me at least, it's hard to get a handle on who is the front runner, and I do think it's still an open race for those 2 spots, and we'll see how it comes together in these coming weeks.
Sammy, appreciate it. Enjoy the day and a half or so off. They got a late start tomorrow and first kind of night game of spring training, so take some time and get recharged for this last week or so of spring training.
I will, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Sammy.
There he is, Sam Levitt from Peoria, Arizona. Been covering it every single day for us, working so hard. Definitely deserves that day off.
The GOAT.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job. I just bring it up because, yeah, maybe Randy Vasquez, maybe there's concerns, but every pitcher is going to get lit up a couple of times, whether it's in spring, in the regular season. You Darvish every year, even when he has a great season, he has that one start where he's awful, just awful. You know, he gives up, 8 runs in 2 innings, and you go, well, what happened to you that day? If you make every judgment like snap, like, oh, on the last thing you just saw, it's not baseball. That is just gut, like emotional thinking. If you just do that every single time.
Of it.
Maybe Randy Vasquez just had a bad day, wasn't feeling great, and he may be the best option for the Padres. So my very reasonable Ben take here is don't overreact when Mike Shildt names his 4th and 5th starters. Even if he goes, it's Pedro Avila, and you go, Avila was terrible this spring. How can they make him the starter? You cannot judge it based on just 1 or 2 things. You haven't seen all the side sessions. You don't know what they were working on. You don't know what the matchups are. There are so many other factors that go into this decision. And by the way, it's going to change a million times over the course of the year as well.
It's not like it used to be where you feel like that's going to be the rotation, barring injury, start to finish throughout the season.
It may be Waldron and Brito, but it may not. They may feel like Johnny Brito's better served in a flex role at this point and not ready to join the rotation. I think Matt Waldron's probably going to be in the starting rotation based on what I've seen so far. But that's also a lot on what we saw at the end of last season as well. And he's continued it into spring training. The rest of them, to me, you can put any one of them out there. They could succeed. They could fail. I don't know. But you can't judge based on the fact that he got hit hard yesterday and make your decision. All right, we've got 1 hour left. Our Tier 1 tour is going to continue. Geoff Blum from the Astros, broadcaster, friend of the program, is going to join us. All coming up next here on 97.3 The Fan. Fire up the engine, continuing to motor the bus around Major League Baseball. Final hour of Ben and Woods. It's Ben, Paul today. Woods, you'll be back tomorrow. But we said at the beginning that when it called for it, And we have some special friends that can join us on our Tier 1 tour to help us preview the Major League Baseball season. We will do
Gotta
that.
do it. Yeah, it's been a little while.
Yeah, we had early on. We had Skip Schumacher joining us. Matt Strom talked about his Phillies. But right now, joining us is Geoff Blum, Astros broadcaster, former Padre, friend of the program, as we hit the AL West and the Houston Astros in our Tier 1 tour. Blummer, good morning. Welcome back to Ben and Woods.
Always good to be on with you guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, let's just start with the aftermath of loss to the Texas Rangers in the AL Championship Series. Great series, but obviously when you're the Houston Astros and you're the World Series champions and the expectations are very high, imagine there was a touch of disappointment at the end of last season.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that they've created the culture out here that you get to your 7th straight ALCS and you're disappointed. So it's pretty amazing how well these guys play together, how they continue to create what they're trying to, do is get a dynasty out here. But they were a little disappointed. I think most of the disappointment was because of the fact they did play a great series, but at the same time, they did not win a game at home. And it was very reminiscent of the 2019 World Series where neither team won a home game. But the team that had the 4 games on the road ended up winning the series, and that's exactly what happened with the Texas Rangers. They just had too much firepower at the end and beat the Astros in their own ballpark, and they went to the World Series. But there was a little bit of disappointment at the end of that last season.
If I had told you that the Astros were going to win 3 games in Arlington in this series, you'd probably have liked their chances of winning the series last year. It just didn't play out, Geoff. Now, obviously, the biggest and first change for the Astros in the wake of that was the retirement of Dusty Baker and the promotion of Joe Espada to the manager. Have you noticed any changes, or is it business as usual and consistency being the watchword under Espada's new leadership?
Yeah, losing Dusty is a tough one just because you've got so much, history and experience and knowledge and the temperament that Dusty Baker brought to this ball club. He came in at a tumultuous time, and he was really the right call to have in leadership at the time. And, he brought a very calming sense about this ball club. And I think that, with Joe Espada now taking over for Dusty Baker retiring, I think it was really smart that they kept somebody within the organization, within that clubhouse, because the transition isn't going to be drastic. I don't think this team was looking for somebody that really needed to be that drastic, stick that was going to stir the drink, so to speak. I think staying in-house and staying with a guy like Joe Espada is a great choice. He's bilingual. He works well with the Latin players. He works extremely well with the English-speaking players. And I think that he's going to bring a little more of that Puerto Rican fire that he's got. Being a native of there and having that intensity might be the most difference between him and Dusty is going to be that intensity. But he's also a guy that's crazy about detail. Remember, over the years, he's worked with A.J. Hinch, Dusty Baker as their bench coach, so he's really had to kind of have a keen focus on detail, work with analytics, and I think that's where he mixes well with the front office of the Astros and also works into that clubhouse well. So I think that there's some obviously high expectations, but I also feel like the transition so far being in spring has been really good. The guys seem energized, and, not going to the World Series last year gave him a couple weeks extra to relax a little bit last offseason.
Well, obviously, Dusty was the right guy at the right time when the Astros needed that steady veteran hand. There were some rumors of friction between Dusty kind of in the front office and that old school and modern baseball approach. Is that why Dusty stepped down, or was it really, do you feel like it was just time and he was ready to call it a career?
I think he might have been ready to call it a career, and I just want him to get in the Hall of Fame because I'm dying to hear his speech and hear the stories he's about to give, because he is easily one of the most entertaining humans I've ever met inside of the game of baseball. And growing up in Southern California, watching him with the Dodgers, and then playing against him as a player, as he was a manager, and then broadcasting for him, you get to know Dusty pretty well. But I agree with you in the sense that it wasn't a flaw, but it was something that was unlike other managers. He has an intense loyalty to those veteran guys, so he would give them a little bit longer leash to go out there and try and figure out what was working, what wasn't working, and keep them in the lineup. And I think that's what might have frustrated the modern-day front office, like we kind of have a tendency to have here in Houston is, we're looking at numbers, we're looking at who's going to give us a better option of increasing our win probability, whereas Dusty was like, look, this is my guy. I'm going to stick with him. He's going to figure it out. And obviously it paid off in 2022. But I think that 2022 season, winning that World Series, maybe sped up the retirement process a little bit, as crazy as it sounds, just because the energy and the thought and the will to go out there and win a World Series is very taxing.
We're on our Tier 1 tour, taking a look at the Houston Astros, going team by team, and we're joined this morning by former MLBer and Astros broadcaster Geoff Blum. And the most significant addition this year for the Astros, someone, of course, we're very familiar with here in San Diego, the signing of Josh Hader to join that bullpen. Surprised a lot of people simply because the Astros had a very effective closer in Ryan Pressly. So far in spring training, what's the dynamic there? Pressly, okay, going to be moving into the eighth inning role, and Hader's usage. Obviously, he was a one inning strictly guy with the Brewers and the Padres the last couple of years. Is that going to be his role with the Astros, or could it evolve a little bit now that he's got his long-term deal?
Matt, you bring up some really good points. And, first of all, what transpired over the offseason was the Astros knew that they wanted to add a bullpen arm. And going through the process, Dana Brown, the GM of the Astros, kind of went to Jim Crane and said, hey, these are some of our options. And Jim turned around and said, who's the best option out there? And it turned out Josh Hader was still there. And that's what kind of instigated that conversation between Dana Brown and Josh Hader. And sure enough, Jim signed off on a deal that pays him, $95 million over 5 years. So they got the best reliever option out there. But it did create a little bit of controversy in the sense that Ryan Pressly was already established as the Astros closer, doing a phenomenal job, closed out a couple of World Series. And now he's going to have to take a back seat, and he has. He's said all the right things in the media. He has said all the right things to us off camera. And it seems like he's really kind of anticipating a new role, being either the setup or a matchup guy late in the game. Because now with Josh Hader at the back end of that bullpen, I think he has the ability to be that one-inning guy, because you have a Brian Abreu to Ryan Pressly to Josh Hader, and that's a pretty strong three to finish out a ball game. But I also like what you said about he's got the deal now. He's got the 5-year contract, and he's going to be in a place where he understands his role, and he has the security of a contract. So who's to say, I bet you it's entirely up to him. If he walks in and says, hey, I can give you, 4 outs, I can give you 5 outs, they may actually take advantage of that opportunity. I'm kind of curious to see if that does play out throughout the course of this contract.
I'm looking at the FanGraphs projection depth chart for the Astros here, and I've done this for every team as we've gone on the tour. And what absolutely stands out about the Houston Astros is where you see the lineup. 7 of the guys projected in the starting lineup, and every single one of the starting pitchers drafted or signed as an amateur internationally. And 12 of those guys have been in the organization for at least 7 years, some even longer than that. This is the most successfully homegrown organization in Major League Baseball. I don't think it's even...
That's the blueprint, right?
I don't think it's even close. It's what, A.J. Preller wants to do and has never really been able to do. They've done it in Houston. They've absolutely done it. Now, some of these guys obviously have gotten expensive and signed free agent deals. We just saw Jose Altuve sign his deal for life the last 5 years. Doesn't mean they're cheap, but all of these guys have come up together, have been together, and it is a rarity now in Major League Baseball to see this.
No, you're exactly right. And I think there are a lot of teams out there trying to emulate what the Astros were able to do. But you got to go back and remember they had to lose, 3 or 4 seasons of 100 losses to be able to accrue those top-end first and second round sandwich-type picks to go out there and have these guys in the organization. And then you have to have the staff in place that actually can figure out what guys they want in their organization. Then you have to have the developmental people in the minor leagues that are able to develop these guys and encourage them, not just as individuals, but also create that winning culture so that when they do get to the big leagues, the expectation is to perform, obviously, for personal reasons. But at the same time, if everybody performs up to their abilities, you're able to go out there and win games. So the fact that they've created talent and culture here is truly amazing to me, because that's probably the hardest part, is how you marry some of the talent with the idea that we're all going to play together and win games. And now you've got guys that have been around a while, and like you're talking about, in that rotation, you've got Christian Javier, Jose Urquidy, Luis Garcia, and Framber Valdez, and these are all international signings. And I think that's what kind of gets lost in the mix a little bit is that if you have a very good international scouting group and you're able to go out and pluck some of these guys and stay with them and see if they're able to mature a little bit, because the typical idea for a Latin guy is to sign him at 16 years old and development as he goes. But the Astros have actually taken 18, 19, 20-year-old guys, signed them, and seen their ability, got them in the organization, built them up, and turned them into quality big league pitchers. I think that's what's been very unique about the Astros, is how they've handled the international signings that they've had. That's been a lot of fun to watch.
Well, let me follow up on that. And just from a Padres fan perspective, clearly A.J. Preller and his scouts do great internationally. Ethan Salas just signed Leo DeVries. They're always rated very highly on where they find these guys. They get them into the organization. But you said there is that second step. You then have to develop them into the big league talents so they can produce on the big league level. And the Padres, that's always been the stumbling block. They get these guys in, highly rated, top 100, MLB prospects, but have they really produced on the big league level? What is it that the Astros do in the developmental system that you have seen that seems to be so successful in turning these top prospects into top major league players and pitchers?
It's complicated and simple at the same time, but I also like to kind of compare it to the 90s and early 2000s St. Louis Cardinals under Tony La Russa. They had an identity at the big league level of what they were going out there and doing and the kind of players that they wanted, and it filtered down through the minor league system. And I think when A.J. Hinch got to Houston, he realized that there was a lot of talent here and they were trying to nurture it, but he had an idea of what he wanted the big league level to be, and then you start to see it filter down. You draft guys that fit that mold, and then you just you continue to create the idea of offensively, we are going to be a team. We're not going to swing a lot. When we do, we're going to make contact. We're going to take our on-base percentage and jack that up and take our walks and wait for the other guy to drive us in. So they've really done a good job of promoting strike zone command, starting in low A ball all the way up through the big leagues, so that's a mentality they have, and they're not going to be afraid of it when they get to the big leagues. And on the other side, on the pitching side, they have consistently said, we are going to throw elevated fastballs on four seams. We're going to spin the hell out of it and get that late rise on it. And then when you have the off speed or you have a little bit of a curveball, we're going to go out there and try and figure out how we can get you to spin the hell out of that thing and create the most break and create this unbelievable shape that's unhittable to create the swing and miss. So on the offensive side, it's run the bases hard, make a lot of contact. And on the pitching side, it's going to be spin, both with the fastball and the off speed, but create swing and miss. That's their big key, is not to swing and miss on offense and create swing and miss on defense. And that's what they've done. And they do a good job of drafting athletes, but that is the consistent theme from A-ball all the way to the big leagues for these guys.
Well, it's somewhat encouraging. You compare the Astros to Tony La Russa's Cardinals, and that we have the Tony La Russa disciple, Mike Schilt, who was in those minor leagues for so many years as the manager. Now we got to spend some
there?
Spend some time with Mike when we were at spring training last week. Really liked him a lot. Looking forward to seeing what he can do with the San Diego Padres. But we will see if it pans out for the Padres. Geoff, it is great catching up with you. Appreciate your insight. Thank you for sharing all you know about the Houston Astros with us.
No, I appreciate it. Always good being on in San Diego. Love that place. Had some good times there, and I always appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Thanks, Geoff. Geoff Blum, broadcaster for the Houston Astros, as our Tier 1 tour continues. It is really striking when you look at their roster. And you can hate the Astros for the sign stealing, and that's fine. But you cannot deny that they have built good players, and they have done it in a homegrown fashion. Now, as he pointed out, they lost 100 games 3 years in a row to get those top draft picks. Maybe the Padres, part of the issue is they were never able to really go all in being bad.
In the tank?
Yeah, totally in the tank. I
Yeah.
mean, what was, the best draft picks they got were maybe, 6, 7 on their worst years. They never really bottomed out completely, which who would want their team to completely bottom out? But the Astros have shown that it can be a very effective strategy, bottoming out completely.
But ultimately, it's a combination of skill, drafting the right guys, signing the right guys, and luck. It's luck.
There's luck, yeah. I mean,
There's
the Nationals
absolute-
bottomed out and won a World Series. Now they're bottoming out again. The Rockies bottom out, and they never seem to get any better,
Right.
though. That's That's the nightmare where your
Yeah.
team feels like they're bottoming out, but they're not.
There's a handful of teams.
They're not actually getting better in their minor leagues either. And then you have no hope whatsoever. I saw Chris Bryant with some comments, kind of threw some accidental shade at the Rockies prospects going, I may have not done my due diligence about our organization, like how good our prospects were. And like, ouch. That hurts from the guy who gets paid more than anyone else and barely is ever on the field for the Colorado Rockies. But he's not wrong either. I mean,
the kid on the other side of that locker room going, gee, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, it's a tough look, but it worked out for the Houston Astros. We'll see. All right, we're going to take a timeout. It is a Throwback Thursday. Paulie is going to take us back. A little Breaking Ben, which is always fun. And we're going to give away tickets to the final San Diego State home basketball game of the season tomorrow night at Viejas Arena. Senior night, Boise State in town. Your chance to win tickets coming up next after a check of traffic with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. listening. You can see what you missed. Click to listen on demand. Guest features, something crazy that happened earlier. We got you covered. Download the free Odyssey app, search 97.3 The Fan, and tap earlier today to get started. Essentially, the Odyssey app is like having your very own Paul Reindl on your phone, because he is the person who I just tap to go back in time for the things that I've missed or maybe have forgotten about. And we do that on Throwback Thursday because Paulie keeps meticulous archives of our show. And I'm always amazed, like our attack ads from earlier this week, brought those back. I'd totally forgotten about that from 2 years ago. And that's why I love Throwback Thursday and this segment. So, Paulie, what are we going back to on this date or on this week in the Ben and Woods vault?
Well, we've got two gems, both from 2 years ago this week. This week in March of 2022, we had some fun. We'll start off, how about with this one from March 9th. This was another prank that Woods and I pulled at your expense.
Oh, on me.
Yeah.
We don't pull a lot of pranks on Woods or you, do we?
Yeah. It's kind of tough to prank me because if you need any audio or
true.
something,
Yeah, it's like,
good
can't
luck.
set you up.
Good luck. And we don't prank Woods nearly as much. I don't know. It's just not
Is
as
it because
fun.
I don't have that devious mind, or is it that we're worried that he's going to take it the wrong way?
How would you prank Woods?
I don't know.
How would you even do that if you wanted to?
He self-pranks because he just talks about everything.
Right.
So.
That's the thing. He's not embarrassed.
No.
He has no shame.
You can't embarrass Woods.
You can't embarrass
But I can be embarrassed.
Yeah, you can. I don't know how embarrassed you were about this one, but it had been a while. We had the Dixie Normus fake collar that we provided you with. That was about 1.5 years before this one. And me and Woodsy were out there and we're like, man, it's been too long since we've gotten Ben with a prank. Let's do this. So we came up with a liner, a fake liner. We just shoved it in the rundown with the other 10 Odyssey liners that you have to read, and it gave us this.
This hour of Ben and Woods brought to you by Pound Town. Head on over to Pound Town in Mission Valley today for San Diego's premier pound cakes, chocolate, lemon, strawberry, key lime, you name it, they've got it. Head on over to Pound Town today, 420 Camino de la Reina. Get yours today. Let's check traffic right now on 97.3 The Fan.
I'm sorry that we got you again.
Excuse me?
I got you again. Paulie and I came up with this idea yesterday on the golf course where many, many ideas are spurned. Did you notice anything different about this this liner that you
go
just...
back? It was a new one. I will admit that.
Yeah.
And I had never heard of this business before. Mm-hmm. But it sounded good.
I will say
this hour of Ben and Woods brought to you by Pound Town. Head on over to Pound Town in Mission Valley today for San Diego's premier pound cakes, chocolate, lemon, strawberry, key lime, you name it, they've got it. Head on over to Pound Town today, 420 Camino de la Reina. Get yours today. Let's check traffic right now on 97.3 The Fan.
You're saying that there is no...
businesses all think they're so clever nowadays. There probably is a pound cake store called Pound Town somewhere. I'm gonna defend. I'm gonna say that one felt kind of real to me.
That's why I did it.
Pound Town pound cakes, and
I still wish it existed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that became a pretty sticky bit with our show. We had our girl Annie come by and make us some actual Pound Town pound cake. You were showing off on our YouTube stream the big Pound Town, welcome to Pound Town sign that is right behind you in our studio. We had a sign out at our golf tournament last year, welcome to Pound Town. So that was certainly fun.
And then we also have a Breaking Ben moment from the same time 2 years ago.
I am all the way in on any Breaking Ben moments. We actually heard this. This was a promo that ran on our station just a couple of days ago, and it always makes me laugh when I hear it. This was, this week, back in 2022. I believe this was during the Reindl Report, and I was telling you about some drama in the music industry. One band saying another band stole their song.
Yeah.
And this is Live Your Life from Article Sound System, released 5 years ago.
Otherwise known as ass.
Yeah, Article Sound System.
Got him.
Breaking Ben. Almost fell out of your chair, I think.
He's done. headphones fell off.
Damn near fell out of his chair.
Got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. He's done, dude. This may be number one.
My stomach hurts.
This may be number one.
Take a bow.
He's done. He is absolutely done.
I'm going to listen.
You can listen to
I
ass.
Go ahead.
I mean, it was.
You know what? I think
What got you so good there?
Because I didn't see it. You said article sound system. It didn't even occur to me that was the acronym. And then I think I just got it into my mind. Did they know it when they named the band? Was that like part of the inside joke? Or I guess I pictured in my mind like we got this band and they played some gigs and then finally one day someone points out, do you know that your band spells out ASS? And like, oh no, I didn't see it. I found it so amusing, and the fact that
you really
Woods
did.
just pointed it out right there, I died. I died. I just didn't see it. And
this is Live Your Life from Article Sound System, released 5 years ago.
Otherwise known as ass.
Yeah. Article Sound System.
It was so obvious. It was right there, and I hadn't seen it. And when he pointed it out, I just lost it. I did.
Oh, gosh, that's good. There's another. This little noise that you make towards the end. Right here.
Just the sigh that goes with the long laugh. It's just too good.
So good.
Too good.
Oh, love
All right,
you,
a little Throwback Thursday for you here. And then Woods will be back tomorrow on Friday. We've got some Aztecs tickets to give away. We've got a pair of tickets to tomorrow's regular season finale. It's senior night. Honor some of your favorite players like Lamont Butler, Jaden Ledee. Grab tickets now at goaztecs.com or be the fourth caller, 833-288-0973. Win our final pair of tickets to see San Diego State basketball this season. After that, it's Mountain West Tournament and NCAA tournament time. So this is your last chance to get out to Viejas, the Madhouse on the Mesa, 833-288-0973. Call in to win now. All right, we'll come back. Paulie's got a Reindl Report. Just saw some details on what they're calling Camp 44 as well from an athletic piece. That's Joe Musgrove's pitching camp. And there was a detail that I wanted to bring up. So we'll get to that next with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Paul, it's the little details that separate, a good writer from great writers and reporters. And I was just reading this morning, new posting from The Athletic, Dennis Lin, covering the Padres at spring training, about Joe Musgrove's Camp 44. And it's the off-season pitching camp that Joe put on in late January at Petco Park. And I asked him about it when we talked to him at spring training. And a lot of people in the organization are saying this was very key in helping integrate some of the new guys, from the New York Yankees, get them comfortable with teammates and staff members, and get an early start for a accelerated spring. Everyone is basically pointing and saying they have set themselves up for success thanks to Camp 44, second year that they've done it. But Dennis had a great little note here, and I didn't talk to Joe about this, and I didn't realize this, but it was more than just getting on to the field, getting some work done, and getting to know your teammates. Joe actually sets up like team building exercises off the field during Camp 44. And I think there'd be a lot of pressure if you had a group of like Major League Baseball players. Obviously, a lot of them already have big contracts.
A lot of money.
You're like setting up. What do you do for team building for
I think I know one of the things
a group
that
of pitchers?
They were doing like bonfires on the beach.
They did a beach bonfire.
Saw pictures of that.
They did a San Diego Bay cruise.
Okay.
Very touristy activity. But, I mean, for the new Padres, maybe kind of get to know the town a little bit. And they did a team dinner at Barbusa, Italian restaurant in Little Italy. And I thought, now those are the little details that I like to find out about what our team is doing during the offseason to build some camaraderie. And there's some quotes, Michael King, just how important it is to, like, not just show up at spring training with 200 new people. It's not just teammates and coaches, but it's staffers. Everybody's different from the different organization. But if you've already met 40 or 50 of them at a camp. It wasn't just players, but there were coaches. Ruben Diablo was there. Some of the staffers were there. Just makes you feel a lot more comfortable when you get to work for the first time. And you're not spending the first 2-3 weeks just trying to get to know every single name and, trying to figure out where things go. This is a valuable tool that the Padres have used. And good for Joe in putting it together and, making that extra step and trying to get guys comfortable and acclimated to the San Diego Padres. So some good stuff in The Athletic this morning from Dennis Lin.
Love that.
All right, let's check traffic last time, and then we'll come out with some headlines. Paulie with the Reindl Report before we turn things over to Annie and Elston at the top of the hour.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Parts of the county still getting hit with some drizzle, even some light rain, so you definitely want to take that into consideration. Take it extra carefully out there, guys. Have those headlights on so you're more visible to other drivers. Still pretty gray out there. A couple things wrapping up our morning drive. One is a crash that's been cleared out of lanes on SAP on 805 near Market Street. Also traveling on westbound King Freeway at College. Accident involving a couple vehicles there over to the right shoulder. Still clearing an accident westbound 56 right around Camino del Sur. Those vehicles are over to the right shoulder. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
On 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right. Wrapping up the show this morning on Ben and Woods, some headlines that we just haven't quite had the time to get to yet. We'll start off in college basketball. One of the most iconic figures, iconic voices in the sport had some really good news over the last 24 hours. Talking about Dick Vitale. Dickie V, he has had a lot of health concerns and struggles that he has been going through over the last few years. You have not seen him a ton on ESPN or on the sidelines calling any games, but yesterday saw the reports that he had some successful surgery to repair his vocal cords, and he has been cleared to resume broadcasting. His quote was, "I feel like today I won the lottery."
I saw a video he posted. He was with his doctor.
Yes.
And his doctor was explaining the procedure. Essentially, he had cancer in the vocal cords, and they had
84 years old.
They had to remove part of the vocal cords, and he used like the other side to rebuild the vocal cords. And just the fact that he could go back to broadcasting in his 80s after cancer, twice, and this surgery, pretty incredible for Dickie V. But that guy is always passionate. We've had the chance to talk to him. It's been a while, but that was a lot of fun to get to talk to Dick Vitale. He has done as much for college basketball and the passion for that sport as anyone, and glad to see that he is doing better and could be returning. Hopefully next college basketball season, get a full season of Dickie Vitale next year.
Absolutely. Next up in the world of football and NFL broadcasting, we talk about anytime a big name retires, like Tom Brady. He already had a deal lined up with Fox Sports for whenever it was that he was finally retiring, and that begins this season. We talked about it yesterday with a guy like Jason Kelsey, just retired, probably going to have any media opportunity that he wants. Nick Saban in college football retired. He's joining College Game Day on ESPN. But you know who the most sought after media free agent is? I was reading on The Athletic. It's actually Bill Belichick, who still wants to coach, we think, hasn't gotten a job yet, but he is being pursued very badly by a lot of different sources to join the world of broadcasting and be on the in the booth. Peyton Manning wants him on Omaha Productions, which is part of ESPN, and maybe do like a Manning cast thing on Monday Night Football. He has been reached out to by CBS and NBC to join their broadcasts. So I don't know if he's throwing in the towel on coaching or if he's still pursuing a head coach position. Do you think Bill Belichick would be good on a broadcast?
I want to be fair when I say this. No. I don't think he's going to be that good. Now,
I don't think so either.
Obviously,
one of the smartest and best football
he knows
coaches
a ton
of all
about
time.
football, and I know that he can expound on it more than he shows in his press conferences. Believe me, I'm taking that into consideration. But the best broadcasters, and there's definitely an important place in broadcasting for former players and their perspective. But oftentimes, the best guys are the ones who weren't the stars. They were the ones who were the backups. We spent a lot of time actually just observing on the sidelines and not playing.
Yeah.
This whole idea that Tom Brady is going to be great as an analyst, like a top analyst, I'm skeptical about that. I would be even more skeptical about Bill Belichick being a fantastic analyst. I do think Nick Saban's going to be pretty decent in that role, but he's always been
game day. It's a panel.
Yeah, he's always been kind of well spoken and opinionated and articulate, and I think he's going to do well. But it would be a major. I mean, Bill Belichick would have to toss his old personality in the trash and try out a completely new one.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is going to have to do the same thing. You can't be a great broadcaster and not step on any toes and be, generic and careful, and it's different than being a player. Tony Romo's done a good job because he's been unafraid to offend a person or two from time to time. You can't be everybody's friend and be a great NFL broadcaster at the same time. I wonder if Tom Brady's going to be able to do that or not.
I like Greg Olson a lot.
Greg Olson's very good, and he was a very good player.
He was a very good player. He wasn't like the number one player in the NFL, the superstar, the first ballot.
I
Hall
like
of
Tim
Famer.
Hasselbeck, though. I think Tim Hasselbeck's really good. Not a good player, but he's been a really good analyst and broadcaster for ESPN. Wasn't even the best quarterback in his own family, but he's probably one of the best broadcasters out there. It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
And just because you have the knowledge doesn't mean you can explain it to everybody.
I'm reading in The Athletic about how all the networks are just really pushing hard to get Bill Belichick, and I go, I don't know, man. I don't know that he's going to be very good. If that's the route that he ends up taking.
I think the Kelseys are going to kind of wear on people. I didn't love Gronk. I don't love Gronk as a broadcaster. Everyone was like falling over themselves. Oh, you got to get Gronk on the panel.
He's doing more of the studio stuff,
It's
the
a
panels.
shtick, though. I don't think his analysis is great. I mean, there's only room for one Terry Bradshaw clown on the set. If it's all just clowns, then it goes off the rails really quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And then finally, there was a social media post going around over the last day or two where a guy is just getting dragged. This guy named Colin posted yesterday, do you know what a bottle night is? Probably not.
Well, I mean, I do. Like, you pay the corkage fee at the restaurant for the bottle of wine. Or I love half-price wine night at restaurants. Usually it's like a Tuesday or a less popular day. You can get half-price bottles of wine. That's bottle night,
I don't
right?
think that's what Colin's talking about.
Okay.
He posted a picture of him and his girlfriend, and they each got a bottle of wine in their hands. He says, do you know what a bottle night is? Probably not, because my girlfriend and I invented it during a blizzard in 2023 in Buffalo, New York. We lock our phones away, turn the TV off, we each grab a bottle of wine and talk. That's it. We simply talk, enjoy each other's presence. We live together, but it's easy to miss out on quality time. What do you think? Do you have other methods for enjoying quality time with your partner? And this has gotten 57.6 million views alone on X. The amount of dragging that went on for this guy. They're like, so you're hanging out. Bottle night is literally hanging out and talking with your partner.
Tyler in the chat says,
Buddy.
dude thinks he invented getting drunk with your wife.
Yeah.
LMAO.
You didn't invent that, bro. I'm sorry. Everyone's been doing that forever.
First of all, before the last, 25 years to half century, there were no phones or televisions at all. So
Right.
that's all people had to do for, centuries.
They just sat
Now, alcohol
and
has
talked.
existed for a long time, but for centuries, literally every night, if you were lucky enough to have alcohol, every night was bottle night until it got dark because you had no lights and then you went to sleep. But that's all there was to do. Now, yeah, we figured out other things to do and play on our phones and watch shows and stuff. But yes, it actually has happened in human history that people have talked to each other without devices in play. So no, you did not invent bottle night.
I do think it's inherently a good thing to unplug from the world occasionally and sit and just be in the moment and connect with your partner and talk and all that. That's all great stuff. But buddy, you didn't invent it. Like what was the TikTok trend that Woods was talking to us about a few months ago, like couch rotting or something?
Right, yes. Yeah.
And somebody's like, oh yeah, we started this new trend. It's called couch rotting. It's like, bro,
you just spend all weekend and you do nothing. You just sit on
because
your
you have a
couch all
viral
weekend.
TikTok, you did not invent hanging out and being a load all day. Been doing that forever.
Yeah, I bet Woods might be doing some couch rotting right now.
Probably is.
He will be back tomorrow. Paulie, thank you for the Reindl Report.
Very, very welcome.
Friday edition of Ben and Woods wrapping up the week. And then next week, off to Korea. We're getting really close to the start of baseball season. I am eagerly anticipating the start of the Annie and Elston program because I know Craig was at the game last night at Snapdragon Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
The chaos. We talked about it earlier. The wet field. You had people like Julie Foudy saying, stop this madness. Get these people off the field. You can't play soccer. It was only semi-recognizable as soccer with the puddles and the water and everything. But it ended up being one of the crazier soccer games ever with a penalty in like the dying seconds of the game that Canada tied it, and then a great penalty shootout. Alyssa Nair, the goaltender for Team USA, saving 3 shots and getting the U.S. to the final of the Gold Cup on Sunday at Snapdragon Stadium. But Craig was there doing the PA. He was in the booth. He posted videos of the absolute just drenching downpours that were happening, especially like right before the game that soaked this field. And I don't know. I mean, was there talk in the press box? Like, should they be starting this thing? Should they be canceling it? Why are they even doing this? It's like you played a baseball game and the ball falls into the outfield and it just stops there because it doesn't roll. You can't play certain sports when it gets too wet.
Right.
And soccer yesterday felt like they shouldn't necessarily have been playing that game, but they did, and it turned out to be a great game. I don't know who gets the last laugh there. I'm sure if I'm Team Canada, I'm not all that happy that I lost the game in those kind of conditions. But if you're the Gold Cup, you ended up getting a really exciting game that went down to the absolute last second with plenty of drama. And I don't know how the fans ended up, if they stuck around, if the rain kept some people away or people left early. It was like 3 hours long by the time it was over, maybe the longest soccer game I've ever watched in my life. So I will be interested to hear what Craig has to say about the Gold Cup game that he was at last night. You'll get some Padres talk, I'm sure, as well from Annie and Elston that are coming up momentarily here on 97.3 The Fan. And then we are 3 weeks from today. We will be wrapping up our opening day broadcast, and we'll have an announcement soon about locations for that. We kind of teased and hinted about our Korea, our first game live watch party that should be happening in less than 2 weeks now. So stay tuned for more details from 97.3 The Fan. We've got
two
some
opening days.
great, exciting events coming your way, and it's going to be the second half of March is going to be quite busy around these parts.
Like, I'm not doing anything
I know,
over
it's
the
gonna-
next 2 weeks
I'm like-
that I don't already have to do.
I'm like thinking, can I clear the rest of my schedule just because we have so much on the table here for the start of the season, and we're just going to be exhausted. By the time April 3rd rolls around, we're going to be
exhausted.
absolutely exhausted. I know I've got a little Ben vacation planned later in April, and I'm going to need it by that point. Woodsy will be back tomorrow. That's it for us. Annie and Elston coming up next. For Paul Reindl, wearing 3 hats today, executive producer, imaging director, and co-host, I'm Ben Higgins. Have a great rest of your Thursday. From all of us here at 97.3 The Fan. So long.